Chapter 1286. Lu Cheng had fled. He covered his buttocks with his hands and flew away, leaving behind a few drops of blood in the void. That spear made him feel heartbroken. In the distance, he saw the town of Acheron. He felt much more at ease when he saw the town of Acheron. The skeleton from the cave of the fallen gods wouldn't be so presumptuous as to break into the town to hunt him down. The reason why the Forbidden Lands were called Forbidden Lands was that they were restricted. Although they were strong, they couldn't act recklessly. Once the skeleton broke into the town, perhaps the cave of the fallen gods would be severely cursed and punished. So, when he saw the town of Acheron, he was very relieved. Like a shooting star, he fell to the ground. His face instantly turned purple-black, as if there was a knot of depression swirling on his face. His legs were a little weak, and the corner of his mouth was trembling. The nether prison experts had returned. When they saw Lu Cheng, they were surprised. They didn't expect that Lu Cheng would come back faster than them. "Leader Lu Cheng, you're back so soon? Have you already killed that skeleton?" Lu Yong asked excitedly as he looked at Lu Cheng. However, only Lu Cheng's cold eyes responded to him. "Why does this guy have to touch my sore spot? Annihilate my A*S. That skeleton had already burst his A*S. All right. The pain of his chrysanthemum had made his heart extremely sensitive. In the town of Acheron, several prison overlords frowned as they looked at the nether prison experts who had returned in a hurry. They could clearly see the injuries on Lu Cheng's body. Although Lu Cheng tried his best to cover it up, they could still sense the faint traces of blood on his body. "What's going on?" Jin Jiao focused his eyes. "The experts from the cave of the fallen gods have come out. You can announce the end of the semifinals. The other contestants are basically not coming back." Lu Cheng glanced at Jin Jiao and grinned. However, his expression was somewhat bitter. "The experts from the cave of the fallen gods have come." The expressions of Jin Jiao and the others changed instantly. Why would the experts from the Forbidden Lands make a move? The prison overlords looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. Is it because of the senseless lotus? Luo Ji's pink hair fluttered as she blinked her beautiful eyes. The senseless lotus might really be the reason why the Forbidden Lands took action. The one who got the senseless lotus was Bu Fong. Doesn't that mean the experts from the Forbidden Lands are looking for Bu Fong? Jin Jiao gave a few orders, then carried the corpse ghost soul sealing fan and flew out. Silverhorn and the others waited on the spot. Yuqi's face was cold. She took a step forward, and her long legs seemed to have elasticity. Her body bounced up, and she flew out of the town. In just a blink of an eye, he caught up to Jin Jiao. Seeing Yuqi move, Yin Jiao decided to follow her. However, as soon as it flew up, Luo Ji slapped it back down. "Acheron needs someone to protect it. You stay here." Luo Ji pouted her pink lips and said. The terrifying aura continued to spread. Bu Fong's figure was surrounded by a shadow and a skeleton. A terrifying killing intent spread out, causing Bu Fong to not dare to move even the slightest bit. He could feel the terrifying aura wrapping around his body like silk threads. They were two experts at the peak of the Minor Saint realm. Their strength was extremely terrifying. Bu Fong took a deep breath, his eyes focused. He didn't dare to be careless. It was a skeleton wearing armor. Where did these strange experts come from? Bu Fong was a little suspicious. When did he provoke these experts? He was such a low-key person. Bu Fong's gaze swept the surroundings and found that the ground was a mess. It was obvious that a great battle had taken place here. There were many broken pieces on the ground. They seemed to be the remains of puppets. The aura emitted from them was really powerful. Apparently, the puppet that had been destroyed was not ordinary. Crack, crack, crack. The golden-armored skeleton's mouth moved. A series of mysterious syllables came out of its mouth. Hand over, the senseless lotus, the pale blue ghost fire, and the golden-armored skeleton's eye sockets flickered. Both of its arms were holding golden spears. The spears were covered with mysterious patterns. Senseless lotus. Did they come for the senseless lotus? Bu Fong's mind flickered. The senseless lotus was really extraordinary. It could actually attract so many experts. However, even Bu Fong didn't know what the senseless lotus was for. The expert in the palace had said that if he cooked the senseless lotus, it could help him avoid a disaster. Of course, no matter what, Bufong would not hand over the senseless lotus. The senseless lotus. I don't have it, Bufong said with an indifferent expression. However, as soon as he finished speaking, his eyes suddenly shrank. A golden spear tore through the void and suddenly appeared in front of him. Boom! The golden spear suddenly hit his body. The invincibility of the vermilion robe was suddenly released, blocking the attack, and Bufong's figure was also sent flying by a huge force. So strong, Bufong was shocked. The golden armored skeleton was so strong that he couldn't even see the trajectory of the spear. If it weren't for the invincibility of the vermilion robe, Bufong's body would have been pierced in an instant. Surrender, hand over the senseless lotus, and you, weak guy, may have a chance to live. The figure in the black fog kept laughing as if he was mocking him. But it was true. In the eyes of the expert in the black fog, Bufong's strength was just that of a first-job little saint, an ant. Under the encirclement of him and the skeletons, this guy was definitely going to die. The golden spear was once again in the golden armored skeleton's hand. The ghostly fire in the skeleton's eye sockets flickered. It seemed to be puzzled that the spear didn't pierce through the human. Bufong let out a long breath. His mind flickered. Instantly, several divine seal dumplings floated around his body. However, Bufong wasn't very optimistic. He was very clear that the divine seal dumplings had no effect on this kind of existence. Bufong gritted his teeth. Was he going to use the sword pot? This was his trump card. He didn't expect to use it so soon. Bufong wasn't sure if the sword pot's power could suppress the skeleton and the mysterious expert in the black fog. Suddenly, Bufong's mind flickered. He felt a message in his spirit sea. He frowned slightly. Bufong's mental force went into his spirit sea. Seeing Bufong enter the spirit sea, the golden divine dragon and the vermilion bird hurriedly spoke. Little host, this time your opponent is too strong, I know. Bufong's face was indifferent. He couldn't escape. If he really wanted to fight, he would have to use the sword pot. The sword pot was Bufong's strongest move so far. Let me go. Suddenly, a cold voice rang out. In the spirit sea, the white tiger proudly raised its head, staring at Bufong. Bufong was stunned. Then, he nodded and said nothing. The golden divine dragon and the vermilion bird were helpless. Little host's strength is just that of a first revolution little saint. Although the white tiger specializes in killing, it can at most exert the fighting strength of a fifth revolution little saint. Those two are two top little saints. Swoosh! In the spirit sea, the water surged. Then, the giant black tortoise popped its head out, opening its mouth. Majestic air currents surged out. Swoosh! In the void, Bufong's hair suddenly turned white. His aura also changed abruptly. His eyes were sharp, staring at the skeleton in golden armor. As soon as the white-haired Bufong appeared, his face was very serious. He didn't say anything. His figure suddenly dashed through the void. His oppressive aura made the air explode. Still struggling, the expert shrouded in the black mist sneered, looking at the white-haired Bufong, who was constantly shuttling through the void. The skeleton in golden armor didn't say anything. The ghostly fire in its eye sockets danced for a while. The golden armor on its body clanked. Bending his skeletal legs, he suddenly shot forward. It soared into the sky. It collided with the white-haired Bufong. Roar! A long roar suddenly exploded in the void. It was a tiger roar, accompanied by endless anger. A blue-sea white tiger seemed to appear in the sky. The white tiger raised its head, roaring. A giant tiger claw emerged. All of a sudden, it collided with the skeleton. The skeleton was actually forcefully slapped back and smashed into the ground, creating a deep pit in the ground. In the sky, white-haired Bufong crossed his arms, standing proudly. In my eyes, everyone here is trash. White-haired Bufong arrogantly raised his chin. However, as soon as he finished speaking, his sword-like eyes rolled. His white hair disappeared, turning black. In the spirit sea, the white tiger appeared, lying weakly in a corner. If I were at my peak, howling, I could kill these two worms with one claw, the white tiger snorted. Hot air spurted from its nostrils, as if it was unwilling to give up. The gold divine dragon and the vermilion bird were silent. After all, they were just tool spirits. Although the tool spirit possession could increase Bufong's strength, it was mainly related to Bufong's strength. This time, the enemy was too strong. Bufong furrowed his brows. Although the white tiger had smashed the skeleton away, it was extremely weak and had used up all its energy. Taking a deep breath, Bufong planned to return his body. However, just as Bufong was about to return, the black turtle, who had been sleeping, suddenly opened its eyes, calmly looking at Bufong. "Host, let this old turtle do it." The old voice reverberated throughout the entire world. Bufong was a little surprised. The vermilion bird and the divine dragon were also slightly shocked, their eyes wide in disbelief. The lazy black turtle had chosen to attack, even from the previous host until now. Black Tortoise had never made a move. He didn't expect to see the black turtle attack this time. Could it be Bufong hadn't recovered his wits? The mountain-like black turtle in his spirit sea had disappeared. Rumble, gravel rolled down. In the deep pit, the skeleton in golden armor, which was sent flying by the white tiger's paw, slowly crawled out. Its ghostly flames were still flickering, and its aura had become more and more terrifying. Sizzle, in the various realms, the projection formation abruptly became clear. When Bufong entered the Acheron Valley, the image of the array became blurry. Now, it finally became clear. Everyone stared at the projection array with wide eyes. However, when they saw the image on the light screen, they all sucked in a cold breath. What's going on? What the hell is a skeleton in golden armor? What's that little chef doing now? The audience was in an uproar. They didn't expect that the moment the array became clear, they would see the little chef fighting. The skeleton's bones began to collide with each other. Two golden spears appeared in its hands. The ghostly flames in its eyes flickered again. A moment later, its aura suddenly changed. Boom! A terrifying aura suddenly burst out and surged in all directions. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. Jin Jiao and Yu Ji hurried over. When they saw the golden-armored skeleton, their faces changed. "It's really an expert from the cave of the fallen gods. Stop!" Jin Jiao's face was unsightly as he roared. He raised his hand and grabbed the handle of the corpse ghost soul sealing fan. Then he pulled out the fan. The corpse ghost soul sealing fan glowed with a deep blue light, then turned into a huge fan. He waved the fan. A soul-extinguishing tornado blew towards the golden-armored skeleton. However, facing Jin Jiao's move, the skeleton just swung its hand. A golden spear suddenly flew out like a bolt of lightning. The soul-destroying tornado was shattered in an instant. The golden spear's momentum didn't slow down, and it continued to attack. Jin Jiao's face changed dramatically. He raised the corpse ghost soul-sealing fan to block the spear, but the spear hit him hard and threw him to the ground. Hiss! This scene was broadcasted through the light screen. Everybody sucked in a breath of cold air, feeling incredulous. That skeleton in golden armor was so strong. That was the Earth Prison Overlord Jin Jiao, and he was sent flying by a spear. The little chef had provoked such an existence. Yuji's face was also very serious. Grabbing the heavy sword, she let out a cold shout, her aura rising. However, just as she was about to make a move, a mass of black mist suddenly appeared in front of her. Hee. How many years has it been? The Earth Prison Overlords have changed. Are the Earth Prison Overlords who followed old Hades all dead? The laughter coming from the black mist made people's hair stand on end. Boom! A rumbling sound rang out. Yuchi's figure was also quickly sent flying. She shot out like a cannonball and crashed heavily on the ground. The experts watching through the light screen were already numb. It was another formidable existence that could easily send a Earth Prison Overlord flying. The little chef was besieged by such an expert. This was a deadly situation. The skeleton in golden armor only had one spear left in its hand. Ghost flames surged as it grabbed the spear. Then it suddenly shot forward. Then he turned into a golden meteor and sped toward Bufong in midair. In the void, the black-haired Bufong closed his eyes. The skeleton in golden armor kept approaching him. The sound of breaking the air rang out unceasingly. The spear swept, its tip pointing at Bufong. It approached quickly. All of a sudden, when the golden-armored skeleton was within 1 meter of Bufong, Bufong's eyes widened. Bufong, who had kept his eyes closed, opened them. His eyes were ancient, filled with the aura of time. It made the ghost flames in the skeleton's eye sockets jump violently. At this moment, Bufong's black hair began to change, turning dark green. Chapter 12, 87. His eyes were filled with the vicissitudes of life, and his aura was ancient. That ancient aura diffused, as if it was from the beginning of time. His dark green hair fluttered in the air. The green-haired Bufong's eyes seemed to be able to see through the world, looking at the skeleton in golden armor, which had barged into a 1-meter radius around him. A majestic, mountain-like aura expanded from the green-haired Bufong's body, covering the entire area. His aura was majestic, like a peerless mountain peak that wanted to suppress everything. A huge pressure suddenly came crashing down, directly smashing into the body of the golden-armored skeleton. The golden-armored skeleton's bones kept making crackling noises. The ghost fire in the skeleton's eye sockets twitched. The skeleton opened its mouth. A moment later, the hand holding the golden spear swung. It aimed at the green-haired Bufong's head, aiming to kill Bufong. On the light screen, everybody was already in an uproar. They were all petrified, completely dumbfounded. What the F***CK is going on here? That little chef. His hair changed color again. And this time it turned green. Oh, F***CK. Green? Such a stimulating color? What kind of weird personality was this little chef going to have this time? They thought that it was normal for Bufong's hair to change color. But how many colors did it have? Black, gold, white, red, and now dark green. Did this little chef want to turn his hair into a 7-colored rainbow? With a 7-colored rainbow on his head, he would be invincible in this world. However, many people were still a little worried, because this skeleton had sent a prison overlord flying with just one spear. Its power was really terrifying. Could the little chef resist it? Or rather, could the little chef who had changed his hair to dark green block it? Swoosh! The tip of the golden spear shot out at high speed. It aimed at Bufong's head, as if it wanted to pierce through Bufong. The power of his spear was so terrifying. It was as though the void had been torn apart. In the distance, Yu Ji and Jin Jiao's eyes shrank. Was Bufong going to die? On the branch, the eyes of the Wingman Valley expert with the green grass bracelet shone as he watched with great interest. Was the battle about to end? How boring. However, the young man couldn't be blamed. The golden-armored skeleton and the black shadow were too strong. Even the Wingman Valley experts felt that it would take some effort to fight them. Therefore, it was not the young man's fault. He could only blame the youth's opponent for being too strong. 2 inches, 1 inch. The green-haired Bufong was very calm, the kind of calmness that could not be shaken even in the face of a landslide. Then, under the watchful eyes of countless people behind the light screens, under the boundless killing intent of the golden-armored skeleton, the green-haired Bufong slowly opened his mouth. He opened his mouth? What killer move? Everyone held their breaths. They were well aware of Bufong's character. Once this fellow changed the color of his hair, he would definitely use all sorts of tricks. For example, the arrogant white-haired Bufong could beat the little saint when he was only a half-step saint. What kind of trick would he use to open his mouth? The green-haired Bufong opened his mouth wider and wider, and his tonsils popped out. Under everyone's watchful eyes, a lazy, rhythmic yawn rang out. Along with the yawn, the golden-armored skeleton's spear suddenly stabbed out, creating a huge crater in the void with turbulence constantly running around. What the hell? What the hell? Behind the light screens, all the people who were looking forward to Bu Fong's killer move were dumbfounded. So many people were waiting for the killer move that you had been preparing for a long time. In the end, all you did was yawn in a cadence. And where did you go after yawning? Boom! A loud noise rang out. Everyone was dumbfounded. In the void, the golden armored skeleton holding the golden spear was also dumbfounded. It seemed that even with its brain capacity, it was a little confused. The pale blue, ghostly fire in its eye sockets kept jumping. Where is he? Everyone was puzzled. Where is he? The image captured by the projection array seemed to hesitate for a long time. Then the image changed and they saw Bu Fong. A huge crater appeared on the ground. In the hole, the green-haired Bu Fong was lying. Under everyone's watchful eyes, the green-haired Bu Fong opened his mouth again and yawned leisurely. The corner of Jin Jiao's mouth twitched. Yu Ji was speechless. The figure shrouded in the black mist also let out a soft cry of surprise. The Winged Man Valley experts widened their eyes and watched curiously. What kind of trick was this? Under everyone's watchful eyes, after yawning, Bu Fong felt that he couldn't go on like this. Then he slowly and leisurely climbed out of the deep pit. His body swayed and staggered as if he would fall at any time. That look made everyone think that he would fall asleep in the next second. The golden armored skeleton held the golden spear, its ghostly fire flickering. Then it locked onto Bu Fong again. Holding the spear in its hand, it threw it at Bu Fong, who was staggering on his feet. With a ripping sound, flames appeared on the tip of the spear. It was too fast. Rumble. The spear fell like a bolt of lightning, piercing toward green-haired Bu Fong. Boom! Finally, amidst the dazzling brilliance and the deafening explosion, Chen Xiaobei's eyes widened. The spear completely devoured green-haired Bu Fong's figure. Was he dead? In the light screen, everyone was dumbfounded. Looking at the surging light and the rumbling explosion on the ground, they didn't know what to say. After a long time, the smoke and dust dispersed. The golden armored skeleton also fell to the ground, its armor clanking against each other. Crack! Crack! The skeleton slowly walked toward green-haired Bu Fong. The smoke and dust dispersed. The golden armored skeleton's eyes shrank. Another deep pit was added to the deep pit. Green-haired Bu Fong was lying on his back, his face like a Chinese character. The golden spear was stuck an inch away from the side of green-haired Bu Fong's head, and it was still shaking slightly. Snore! Snore! The green-haired Bu Fong snored rhythmically. Everybody was in an uproar. He was fine. After taking such a blow, he was unscathed. Moreover, he was sleeping soundly. This little chef was going to defy the heavens. And was he possessed by the sleeping god? He couldn't sleep. Get up and fight. Everybody was screaming in their hearts. Green-haired Bu Fong seemed to have heard their cries. He staggered to his feet again, opened his mouth wide, and yawned. In a light screen, everyone seemed to have been infected, and they all opened their mouths wide and yawned. Some of them even had tears in their eyes as they yawned. What the F***CK? Why was he so demonic? The golden armored skeleton seemed angry. It opened its mouth, and strange syllables rang out. A moment later, the ground exploded and a body shot out. The skeleton's fist was aimed at Bu Fong's head. It wanted to smash Bu Fong's head. This old turtle has lived for so many years. I've seen through everything in the world. Fighting and killing are so boring. Only sleeping is the best thing in the world. The green-haired Bu Fong opened his mouth. His voice seemed to have gone through a lot of vicissitudes. Then he yawned again. Behind the light screen, everybody yawned together with him. They didn't know whether to laugh or cry. It was supposed to be a serious battle. Boom! A loud explosion rang out. Like a clap of thunder, it woke up the people who were a little sleepy. They were shocked to find that Bu Fong was fighting. A walk floated in front of the green-haired Bu Fong. It was the Black Turtle Constellation Walk. The golden armored skeleton's fist landed on the Black Turtle Constellation Walk, but it failed to shatter it. The skeleton was dumbfounded. The green-haired Bu Fong clasped his hands and yawned, looking at the skeleton with his vicissitudes of life. This old turtle will remember you. Do you want to sleep with me? Green-haired Bufong said. After that, he really lay down on the ground with his arms spread wide open. The skeleton was silent. The people behind the light screen were also speechless. Sleep my ass. Get up and have fun. Everyone was screaming in their hearts. Good night, little skeleton. The green-haired Bufong said casually. Then the sound of snoring arose. Swoosh! The black turtle constellation walk suddenly shot up into the sky. A moment later, it enlarged in the sky, turning into a huge hill. It was a loud bang. The black turtle constellation walk fell. Bufong was completely shrouded in it. Like a huge iron-skinned tortoise shell, he was completely wrapped in it. For a moment, the atmosphere was somewhat stagnant. Good night, everyone. A lazy voice drifted out of the walk, sounding a little dull. Everyone fell silent. Good night, your sister. Can't you stand up and fight like a man? We need to fight to our heart's content. Don't hide in the black walk like a turtle. The skeleton was enraged, its ghostly flames blazing. Boom! The aura on its body rose steadily. The terrifying aura caused even the air to distort. There's going to be a good show, the expert in the black mist said with interest. The eyes of Jean Jiao and the others narrowed. Do you think you're safe hiding in a black walk that looks like a turtle shell? The skeletons of the cave of the fallen gods cultivate their skeleton bodies, which are not weaker than the tyrant clan of the 9 nether prison clans. It's just a black walk. Sooner or later, it will be smashed, the expert in the black mist said with a sneer. The skeleton in golden armor did the same. The golden armor clanged, and the white skeleton actually turned silver, becoming as sturdy as metal. He raised his fist and viciously smashed it against the mountain-like black walk. A loud bang resounded. The punch seemed to be able to shatter a mountain range. The entire ground began to tremble. There was a crisp cracking sound. The black walk remained motionless, standing on the ground with billowing smoke and dust. The black walk did not budge at all. It stood upright on the ground, dust billowing around it. The golden-armored skeleton retreated a few steps. Its skeletal palm was covered with cracks. What? What was going on? The expert's laughter stopped abruptly. It was as if a slap had landed on his face, making a loud smacking sound. It was a slap in the face. The people watching through the light screen were in an uproar. The mighty skeleton in golden armor cracked its palm because it hit the black walk. How is that possible? Buzz, suddenly. Everyone's eyes narrowed as they looked at the mysterious patterns that emerged on the black walk. They were so profound that no one could figure them out. The vein patterns rippled out like ripples. The next moment, they became clear. Everyone sucked in a cold breath. They saw that the surface of the black walk, countless earthen yellow spikes had appeared on the surface of his skin. Now, they finally understood why the golden-armored skeleton's fist had been shattered by a single punch. Did this black walk have a F*King counterattack? How could they fight it? They were completely shameless. Everyone should go home, wash up, and go to bed. The expert in the black mist seemed a little angry because he had lost face. Suddenly, his figure emerged over the black walk. Buzz, a terrifying amount of energy, continued to gather. The next moment, a pitch-black energy cannonball shot out from the black mist. It fell vertically and smashed hard on the black walk. Boom! The whole ground seemed to be shaved off by the cannonball. Puff! The aura of the expert in the black mist became chaotic, and an earthy yellow halo surged around him. The crowd seemed to hear a slight muffled sound. At this moment, their expressions became more and more strange. Melee attacks were reflected, and ranged attacks were reflected. Did he have to be so shameless? Just because she changed her hair color, she became so shameless? The crowd didn't know whether to laugh or cry. They had been worried about Bufong's safety, but now it seemed that they had worried for nothing. Golden Armor and Yuji were dumbfounded. In the distance, the Winged Man Valley expert's eyes suddenly narrowed. Not bad. It seems that I still need to make a move. The corner of the Winged Man Valley expert's mouth rose slightly. The next moment, 2 pairs of white wings spread behind him. White feathers fluttered and fell. Like a white beam of light, it tore the sky apart. Suddenly it rushed out. Buzz, as the Wingman Valley expert, rushed out. Above the Wingman Valley's head, a holy, white, cross-shaped sort of light appeared. I'm Uluo of the Wingman Valley. I've come to test the power of your turtle shell. The deafening voice suddenly exploded. The next moment, everyone was shocked. A terrifying aura filled the air, making everyone gasp. The expert in the black mist suddenly shot into the distance, looking a little shocked and surprised. A perfected little saint? Chapter 1288. The sudden appearance of the Wingman Valley expert was beyond everyone's expectations. A terrifying stream of light shot out at high speed, suddenly tearing through the sky, and the brilliance instantly swept across everything. It was a sword of light shrouded in holiness, surging with majestic energy. A perfected little saint. The words shouted by the expert in the black mist had shocked everyone. The little saint was divided into 9 revolutions, and the gap between each revolution was huge. Only top cultivation techniques, skills, and treasures of heaven and earth could make up for the gap between each revolution. Otherwise, it was impossible to challenge someone of a higher realm. The perfected little saint was the pinnacle of the little saint realm. It was an existence above the 9 revolution little saint, infinitely close to the great sage. No one had expected that such an expert would actually attack a little chef. The sword of light pierced through the sky and slashed down at the black turtle constellation walk, which was emitting an earthy yellow halo. The expert in the black mist let out a cry of horror. The ghostly fire in the skeleton's eyes flickered. Obviously, it was shocked by the attack of the Wingman Valley expert. Boom! The sword of light slashed down and smashed hard on the black turtle constellation walk. A buzzing sound rang out. The power of this sword was incomparably frightening, causing the entire sky to creak. Rumble! Resplendent light abruptly burst forth. It was incomparably dazzling as it filled the horizon, allowing everyone to see the extreme splendor. Whoosh! Smoke and dust billowed. Air billowed. The attack of a perfected little saint. The turtle shell, no, the black walk, was about to be blown apart. Everyone fell silent. They didn't know what Bufong had done. Not only was he besieged by 2 9-revolution little saints, but he was also attacked by a perfected little saint of the Wingman Valley. This was a deadly situation. Jin Jiao and Yu Ji's pupils constricted, and their expressions changed dramatically. This situation had completely exceeded their expectations. The appearance of the experts from the Forbidden Lands and the participation of the Wingman Valley's little saint made the situation completely out of their control. Bufong could not be saved. The experts, who were a little sleepy because of green-haired Bufong's yawn, had already woken up at this moment and were no longer sleepy. Everyone's eyes were glued to the light screen, looking at the center of the thousands of light swords. What happened to the little chef? Rumble! Billowing smoke and dust surged. The mountain-like black walk was still standing in the same place. The smoke and dust dispersed. The next moment, the ancient and heavy pitch-black walk was still intact. A khaki halo was circulating on it. However, everyone's eyes were sharp, and they could clearly see that the black turtle constellation walk seemed to have sunk a little deeper into the walk. This walk is really hard, but it's not invincible. The wingman, Uluo, grinned. He straightened the grass ring on his head, and a smile appeared in his eyes. I'll be able to break it after a few more attacks. The expert in the black mist drifted like a black cloud. The ghostly fire in the skeleton's eyes flickered as it stared at Uluo in the void. They naturally didn't care about Bufong, who was hiding in the walk. Although there was a rebound effect with their recovery ability, it was not a big deal. However, if they kept attacking, they would break the walk sooner or later. To maintain this kind of defense, there must be a consumption. Would they, the 9-revolution little saint and the perfected little saint, be afraid of the consumption of a 1-revolution little saint? In his spirit sea, Bufong looked at the black turtle constellation walk's defense and twitched the corner of his mouth. The black turtle is still vigorous with age. said the golden divine dragon, swaying his body. The vermilion bird also flapped its wings, looking a little surprised. In terms of defense, the black turtle is indeed the best among us. If he really wants to defend with all his might, even the great sage can't break it in a short time. The white tiger seemed a little unconvinced, but the black turtle's performance made him speechless. He could only snort. The black turtle had lived for too long. They really couldn't compare. It was not impossible to admit that the black turtle was stronger than him. However, although the black turtle's defense was strong, the white tiger's offense was still stronger. The white tiger thought to himself. He immediately raised his head proudly and snorted. But it's not a solution to keep defending. Bufong furrowed his brows. Although they couldn't break the black turtle constellation walk's defense, if this continued, the winged man, Yuluo, thought that the walk's defense would be exhausted sooner or later. Exhaust the black turtle's defense. The golden divine dragon seemed to have heard something funny. Do you think the black turtle sleeps for nothing? The reason he sleeps like this is to reduce his consumption. The energy he has accumulated. It's not that I'm bragging, but even if that Birdman was given 100 years, he might not be able to break it. Unless an expert at the level of the great sage uses brute force to break it. Otherwise what? Bufong was puzzled. Otherwise, no one except the great sage can break the black turtle's turtle shell. The golden divine dragon said, raising his head. His words were domineering, but why did they sound so awkward? Bufong rubbed his chin and pondered for a long time. Then, with a thought, he communicated with the black turtle. Boom! Boom! Yuluo seemed very excited. He felt that the appearance of such a punching bag had given him a little fun in this boring task. So, the light swords kept striking and splashing. Although each attack failed to break the black turtle constellation walk's defense, he was happy. This kind of unbridled and incisive bombardment caused him to feel a wave of refreshment. His whole body was trembling with pleasure. The expert in the black mist and the skeleton in golden armor also kept attacking. The attacks of the three peak existences among the little saints made everyone swallow. But what shocked them even more was Bufong's turtle shell, which had never moved. Suddenly, the turtle shell moved. Everyone could clearly sense that movement. At this moment, everyone's spirit was locked on the turtle shell, so the slightest movement of the shell would be magnified infinitely in their minds. Is it going to break? Finally can't stand it anymore? The corner of Yuluo's mouth twitched slightly. As expected, a mere tortoise shell couldn't possibly withstand his attack. Experts were so lonely. The ghostly fire in the skeleton's eye sockets flickered, and its movements became more and more fierce. Hand over the senseless lotus, boom. A punch hit the black turtle constellation walk, causing it to tremble. The power of the black turtle constellation walk was blocked by the golden armor. So you're also here for the senseless lotus. Me too. What a coincidence. The winged man Yuluo looked at the golden-armored skeleton and the expert in the black mist in the sky in amazement. But I have to kill this boy. After all, it's a mission. I can't do anything about it, so I'm in more trouble than you. Yuluo said bitterly. The skeleton in golden armor ignored him. The expert in the black mist also ignored him. The people in the distance exclaimed, I know. This wingman is sent by the Wingman Valley to avenge their captain. That's right. It's true that the Wingman Valley will seek revenge for the smallest grievance. It's over. The Wingman Valley expert and those experts. The little chef will die for sure. Everyone in the light screen said helplessly, in the Heaven Chief realm. The people in the Heaven Chief realm were filled with indignation as they watched this scene. It was so unfair that the great demon was being beaten by so many people. The Wingman Valley expert was killed in the competition, and they actually sent people to avenge him? It was too despicable. However, it was useless for the people of the Heaven Chief realm to be indignant. The Heaven Chief realm had just recovered, so how could they be a match for the Wingman Valley? Therefore, they couldn't send experts to help Bufong. Creak, a muffled sound suddenly resounded. The three people who were attacking the Wingman Valley expert paused. Yuluo narrowed his eyes. A muffled sound came from the black turtle constellation walk. Another yawn rang out. The crowd didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Have you had enough? I've already said good night to you, but you're still nagging. Disturbing my sleep is tantamount to murdering me for money. Do you know that? A muffled sound rang out. The black turtle constellation walk was slowly raised. Rustling dust fell from the top of it. Everyone's eyes were fixed on the black turtle constellation walk. Buzz, suddenly a violent fluctuation spread from the black turtle constellation walk. Then, a beam of silver light shot out of their eyes. What's that? The winged man Yuluo raised his eyebrows and looked at the ray of light that was shooting towards him in confusion. He raised his hand and sent out a palm strike at the silver streamer. That palm abruptly rumbled, as if it was going to shatter everything. Boom! The palm collided with the beam of silver light. The next moment, Yuluo's expression changed dramatically. Damn it! What the hell is that? Yuluo looked as if he had seen a ghost. When the silver light dissipated, a dried pot appeared. Steam was rising and lingering in the dried pot. Not only the dried pot, but also a dumpling and 7 beef meatballs were inside. What was that? A dish? Don't tell me this guy spent half a day in the turtle shell just to make this dish. Yuluo naturally didn't know what a perishing pot was. But the others on the light screen knew. Both Jin Jiao and Yu Ji knew. Their faces changed abruptly. When they saw the perishing pot, they turned around and ran without hesitation. An uproar arose behind the light screen. No one had thought that there would be such a brave man in this world. He caught the perishing pot with his bare hands. Everyone couldn't help but mourn for Yuluo. Boom! An explosion rang out. A terrifying rumble suddenly resounded, and a fiery light that soared into the sky engulfed everything. In the sky, a huge mushroom cloud engulfed Yuluo. The moment the perishing pot exploded, Yuluo knew something was wrong. However, as soon as the pot exploded, a 7-colored light shrouded his body. To his horror, he found that he couldn't move for a moment. Moreover, the most important thing was not that he couldn't move, but that his physical defense had plummeted at this moment. It was only comparable to a 7th or 8th revolution little saint. He was a perfected little saint, an existence who was about to step into the great sage realm. As long as he could condense his own will of the great path of the great path, he could become a great sage. But what happened? He actually caught the perishing pot with his bare hands. The mushroom cloud rose into the sky, bringing with it a terrible boom and a sky-high explosion. After throwing the perishing pot, green-haired Bufong covered the black turtle constellation walk again, letting the perishing pot's explosion hit it. The skeleton and the expert in the black fog were relatively close to Yuluo, and they didn't know what a perishing pot was. So, they were swallowed by the explosion at the same time. Boom! The golden armored skeleton smashed into the ground far away. Its bones were all fractured. The expert in the black mist was also smashed onto the ground as he howled in pain. In the sky, the mushroom cloud dissipated. What happened in the explosion was revealed. Everyone on the light screen couldn't help but exclaim when they saw the scene. It was too shocking. Yuluo from the winged clan hovered in the air. His originally pure white feathers were now charred black. His face was pitch black, and quite a bit of his golden hair was also burnt. His entire person was like a beggar in dire straits, incomparably disheveled. Yuluo was so angry that his mouth was trembling. Suddenly, the black turtle constellation walk moved again. Another beam of silver light shot out. The light was dazzling like a silver shooting star streaking across the sky. Again, do you think I'll take it? Yuluo's eyes were about to shoot fire. It was the same move. Would he fall twice? He moved, the wings on his back spread, and his long legs straightened. His tattered clothes fluttered in the wind. At that moment, he felt like a little fairy. Of course, this feeling disappeared when he saw the silver stream of light shooting towards him. In the face of that flowing light, his hands actually lifted up uncontrollably. He raised them, Then it steadily caught the silver light. When the light dissipated, it happened to be another dried pot. I'm going to catch a dried pot with my bare hands again. Boom! Another explosion rang out. The golden-armored skeleton crawled up from the ground in a crooked manner, the ghostly blue flames in its eyes pulsating. The next moment, it turned blood-red. It was as if thousands of souls were dancing in its ghostly fire. Boom! The blood-red, ghostly fire drifted out and drew a blood-colored fire array above the skeleton's head. The array spun. A rumble echoed. The void seemed to have been set ablaze. In a flash, within the formation, an extremely terrifying aura permeated out. Within the magic array, a golden skeletal arm stretched out and slapped toward the black turtle constellation walk. The moment the golden skeleton arm appeared in the Acheron Valley, holding a blade of grass, the great sage of the Acheron sneered. Finally can't hold back anymore. With a blade of grass in hand, he took a step forward and appeared in a flash. It was as if a dog's howl had suddenly resounded between the heavens and the earth. The void was torn apart. In the void, an exquisite dog paw also slapped out, slapping towards the golden skeletal arm. Chapter 1289. Experts at the level of the great sage were taboo existences. Once they made a move, they would attract attention and shock from all sides. In the eyes of the great sage, battles below the level of the great sage could only be regarded as small fights. Even if the Winged Man Valley's perfection expert made a move, it would be the same. Without the great sage, even the Lord Go wouldn't choose to make a move. After all, the Lord Go was preparing to do something big. However, once an expert at the level of the great sage made a move, the situation would be different. For example, in the previous match, the Winged Man Valley's captain had summoned the Winged Man Valley's great sage clone. That was a violation of the rules, so the Lord Go had sent out his claw. This time, the golden-armored skeleton couldn't help but summon the great sage of the Forbidden Land. As soon as the great sage's aura spread, everyone was shocked. The light screen trembled slightly, and the scene seemed to become a little blurry. This was because the light screen was affected by the great sage's aura. However, although the light screen was blurry, at least they could see it clearly. The audience saw a blood-colored flame array hovering in midair. Suddenly, a golden skeletal arm reached out of the array and slapped at Bufong, who was wrapped in the black walk. The golden skeletal arm glowed brilliantly, and there were even mysterious runes engraved on it. The palm seemed to be able to shatter heaven and earth. As soon as this claw appeared, everyone held their breaths. Jin Jiao and Yu Ji's expressions became very unsightly. At this point, the match was completely out of their control. How could they stop the attack of the great sage? Unless His Excellency Ying Long rushed over now. However, Ying Long was guarding His Excellency Hades in the Demon King Pass, so he naturally couldn't rush over. Boom! As soon as the green-haired Bufong saw the palm descending from the sky, he dove into the black walk. That palm also descended from the sky, ruthlessly slamming onto the black turtle constellation walk. There was a buzz. The black turtle constellation walk shook. The entire black walk seemed to have sunk deep into the ground. Soil flew everywhere as it continuously shattered. The black turtle constellation walk suddenly shrank. In the end, it turned into a small pot and floated above Bu Fong's palm. Huala la. His dark green hair faded and turned pitch black. The void tore apart. A dog's bark resounded through the heavens. An exquisite dog paw descended from the sky and ruthlessly slapped the golden skeletal arm. The golden skeletal arm also sensed the Lord Go's claw. He seemed to be a little angry. Instead of dodging, he charged at the Lord Go's claw. The two collided in the void. The deafening sound seemed to resound through the entire hell. In the light screen, the resplendent light was dazzling and eye-catching. After the light dissipated, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. They saw that the golden skeletal arm was clawed, and a finger bone was broken. The golden finger bone flew out, smashing hard on the ground. Like a 1,000-ton boulder, the ground caved in deeply. Within the array formation, an extremely enraged roar sounded. Earth Prison Dog, you have to stop me. The senseless lotus. I have to get it. The golden skeleton roared, suppressing its boundless anger. In the sky was suddenly torn apart. A figure stepped through the air, holding a blade of grass in his hand. His eyes were very playful as he watched. The great sage of the Acheron appeared. He glanced at Bu Fong, who was standing on the ground, his face expressionless. He casually slapped out a palm. This palm was like the Acheron River pouring down from the sky. It fiercely hit the golden skeletal arm above the array. It actually caused some cracks to appear on the skeleton's arm. When the senseless lotus was quietly growing on the Acheron River, why didn't you pick it yourself? Now that he has picked it, you want to snatch the fruit? A faint, gentle, magnetic voice came from the crack. Another exquisite dog paw suddenly lashed out. The Lord Go can't stand shameless people like you. Although a skeleton like you does not have any face. Boom! After another blow, heaven and earth seemed to have dimmed a lot. The golden skeletal arm roared unwillingly. Slowly, it shrank back into the array. The great sage of the Acheron chuckled. With a flick of his finger, another stream of the Acheron River fell from the sky, breaking the array. The golden skeleton was swept away by the Acheron River. He smashed into the ground, and his body immediately collapsed, turning into a ghastly white skeleton. Crack! 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 Acheron, Earth Prison Dog, I won't spare you. I will definitely kill you. On top of the eerie white skeleton, suddenly, a blood-colored ghostly flame emerged. The ghostly flame jumped, turning into a ferocious head, roaring. It was as if it was releasing a curse. Unwilling, brutal, and filled with a majestic, murderous intent. Shut up, ugly thing. The great sage of the Acheron's eyes suddenly became cold. He stretched out a finger. The finger descended from the sky, crushing the ghostly flame, causing it to completely collapse. The skeleton, which was twitching nonstop in an attempt to reform itself, was completely shattered at this moment, turning into bone dregs that littered the ground. A golden skeleton at the peak of the little saint realm had fallen. In the sky, the black mist was sweeping. Then, the black mist turned into a beam of light and fled at high speed. The golden skeleton died in an instant, which was a huge blow to it. Without hesitation, it fled, wanting to escape from his place. When the great sage of the Acheron attacked, it couldn't stop him at all. In his heart, he was cursing the skeleton in golden armor for being a fool. What a brainless skeleton. How could it summon the great sage? Wasn't it asking for a beating? Summoning the skeleton in front of the great sage of the Acheron's door. How could the great sage of the Acheron just sit back and watch? In the sky, the black fog lingered and turned into a beam of light, speeding off into the distance. Compared to his life, the senseless lotus was nothing. What he needed to do now was to immediately escape from here, escape from this place of trouble. Otherwise, he would end up like the skeleton. Fortunately, he didn't summon the great sage of the Black Temple, which was the reason he could survive. All of a sudden, a terrible pressure completely enveloped him. The expert in the black mist jerked his head up, and his eyes widened in anger. In the sky, an exquisite dog paw, which blotted out the sun, slammed down and chased after him. Why? The expert in the black mist roared in disbelief, his mind trembling. Boom! The black fog suddenly dissipated, revealing the appearance of the figure. It was actually a figure wrapped in black bandages. His eyes were scarlet, and he held a dagger in his hand as he sped across the sky. I didn't summon the great sage. Why do you want to kill me? The little saint of the Black Temple was both shocked and angry. Does the Lord Go need a reason to kill you? I just don't like the Black Temple. The Lord Go's gentle and magnetic voice rang out. The next moment, the exquisite dog paw fell from the sky. With a loud bang, it completely slapped the Black Temple expert down. Puff! The little saint of the Black Temple completely exploded and turned into a clump of black residue. in the distance. Yellow Spring Great Sage's eyes narrowed as he watched the dog paw turn the Black Temple expert into meat paste with a single swipe of his hand. "This mangy dog has grown stronger," the Great Sage Acheron murmured. Then, he twitched the corner of his mouth and chuckled. "It's good that he's become stronger. Earth Prison will have something to rely on now. Now that Tian Tsong is dead, Nether Prison is ready to make a move. It's good to let this dog scare the opponent." On the light screen, everyone was silent. What just happened? Is that a battle at the level of the Great Sage? Sure enough, as the ancients say, if you don't become the Great Sage, you will always be an ant. The Great Sage's power was simply the power of heaven and earth. He had condensed his own small world and was independent of the will of the Great Path. He was almost invincible. Those two dog paws. One paw broke the Great Sage's finger bones, and the other killed the little saint. Everyone was stunned. They didn't know that there were so many Great Sages in Earth Prison. In the boundless void of Earth Prison, a chubby black dog was lying in the void of space. He elegantly swung his paw, his fat jiggling. The next moment, the Lord Go rose to his feet. He looked into the distance. Then, he saw a black palace that seemed to be embedded in the darkness. The Black Temple. The Lord Go's eyes flashed with a cold light. The Black Temple is good at sneak attacks and killing. If I hadn't been attacked by Tian Tsong and the Lord Go, Nether Prison wouldn't have defeated us so easily. This time, the Lord Go is back. I'll get even with you. He twisted his body. The Lord Go's fat figure slowly disappeared into the void. In the Black Temple, he also sensed the death of the Black Temple's assassin who went to find the senseless lotus. For the Forbidden Lands, every expert was extremely important. The death of a peak little saint was a great loss to the Black Temple. Damn it! Damn it! You killed my Black Temple's experts. When the Black Temple returns to the world, you'll all die. Bufong breathed a sigh of relief. He put away the Black Turtle constellation walk. In his Spirit Sea, the Black Turtle had returned to the Spirit Sea vortex and began to sleep. Although the Golden Skeleton's attack was powerful, it only made the Black Turtle feel a little itchy. However, it only made the Black Tortoise feel a little itchy on his back. Unless the Great Sage personally attacked, it was still a little difficult to break through his defense. But now, the Great Sage Acheron and the Lord Go had attacked. There was no doubt that Bufong was safe. In the sky, Yu Luo of the Winged Man Valley, who had been turned into a blackbird by the two perishing pots, was dumbfounded. He opened his mouth, and black smoke spurted out from his mouth. The divine seal dumplings in the perishing pots had almost killed him. If he were not a perfected little saint, a peak little saint would have been seriously injured if he had dared to catch the perishing pots with his bare hands. The seven-colored light could weaken one's defense, which caught him off guard. A few of his pure white feathers had been scorched. The Lord Go had disappeared. However, the Great Sage Acheron did not disappear. A terrible aura locked the void. It caused the entire sky to be sealed by a terrifying force. Yu Luo's face turned livid. How could he escape from a Great Sage? Although a perfected little saint was not far from the Great Sage's realm, a little saint was, after all, a little saint. There was an insurmountable gap between him and the Great Sage. Oh, a birdman from the Wingman Valley? The Great Sage Acheron held the grass in his hand and looked indifferently at Yu Luo. The expert from the Forbidden Land had been killed, and there was only a little saint from another small world left. How should he deal with this guy? That was what everyone was curious about, including the expert behind the light curtain, Gold Horn, Yu Ji, and the others. With a thought in his mind, a pot of tea appeared in his hand, and he began to gulp down the tea. Two perishing pots mixed with explosive meatballs and divine seal dumplings, plus the artifact Spirit Possession. Even though Bufong had condensed his divine will, his mental force still felt short, so he needed the 9 Revolution Great Path tea to help him recover. At the same time, Bufong could see what happened to Yu Luo. Just now, he was the happiest when it came to throwing black pots. Of course, he was the one who caught the perishing pots accurately. Yu Luo blinked. He glanced around. He glanced at Bufong. then at the great sage Acheron. Suddenly, he had an urge to cry. He just wanted to have a good vacation. Why was he assigned to this kind of task? Plop! In the sky, Uluo, the winged man, dropped to his knees, tears streaming down his face. Brother, I was wrong. I surrender. Facing the great sage Acheron, Uluo surrendered. Everyone was amused by the scene. What happened to his dignity as a perfected little saint? What happened to his dignity as a perfected little saint? In the Winged Man Valley, the great sage of the Winged Man Valley flew into a rage. A pure and holy light suddenly shot out, completely obliterating a mountain peak. What a disgrace! How can the noble winged man of the Winged Man Valley submit to others? Damn it, I didn't get the senseless lotus, and I didn't get my revenge. The Winged Man Valley won't swallow this loss. Chapter 1290. The surrender of the Winged Man Valley's perfected little saint came as a surprise to everyone. No one thought that he would even throw away his dignity as a perfected little saint. Under the pressure of the great sage Acheron, he knelt directly. In fact, no one knew that Uluo's heart was bleeding. He just wanted to take a good vacation after completing the task, but he didn't expect that he would fail this time. It just so happens that my stone statue Ghost King has just been destroyed by a group of nether prison brats. You can temporarily replace my stone statue Ghost King and guard the door for me. The great sage Acheron said faintly. Uluo's heart was filled with grief. He, the Winged Man Valley's perfected little saint and a noble winged man, had been reduced to a guard for someone else. He was very upset. He was very sad. He took a deep look at Bufong, who was drinking tea from a teapot, sighed, and his black feathers drooped. The great sage Acheron held the grass in his hand. The corners of his mouth curved slightly as he glanced at Bufong. Boy, I'll be waiting for you, the great sage Acheron said meaningfully. After that, he picked up Uluo and walked away, disappearing in front of everyone's eyes. In the distance, Jin Jiao and Yu Ji flew over at high speed. When they saw that Bufong was unscathed, their expressions became a little strange. You've resisted the attacks of a few peak little saints for so long, but you're not hurt at all? Jin Jiao took a deep breath and looked at Bufong in disbelief. Bufong put away the teapot and took a few sips of the 9 Revolution Great Path tea. He felt that his mental force had recovered a lot, and he felt refreshed. Bufong twitched the corner of his mouth at Jin Jiao and Yu Ji's words. The great sage won't make a move. Kill me? It's just a joke, Bufong said. Hearing him, Jin Jiao and Yu Ji sucked in a breath of cold air. On the light screen, everyone was in an uproar because of Bufong's words. This act, we're convinced, this little chef is getting better and better at showing off. Is the great sage someone you can casually make a move? The people behind the light screens were in an uproar. Some were shocked by Bufong's strength. Some people were shocked by Bufong's arrogant words. If the great sage didn't make a move, who could kill him? But in this world, how many people could make the great sage act? Bufong was also clear about this. Right now, his cultivation was still too weak. If his cultivation was stronger, he would be able to exert more power after being possessed by the artifact spirit. At that time, it would be possible for him to block the great sage's attack. After all, with the black turtle, his defense was almost invincible. Jin Jiao and Yu Ji didn't give Bufong too much time. They took him directly back to Acheron Town. There was no light screen in Acheron Town. Because Acheron Town was set up for the competition, not for spectators, the light screen was not prepared. The nether prison experts walked restlessly in the square of Yellow Spring Town. Liu Cheng was leaning against the wall, his buttocks raised. There was a wound on his buttocks. That was the result of the skeleton's golden spear stabbing through it. That little chef should be dead for sure. The skeleton is from the cave of the fallen gods, an expert from the Forbidden Land. Even Captain Liu Cheng was seriously injured. How could that little chef survive? He's just a 1 revolution little saint. Maybe he has some means to fight against a 2 revolution little saint, But that skeleton is at the peak of the little saint realm. How could he survive? The nether prison experts had nothing to do, so they began to talk to each other. Zhang Xian was dead. He was slapped to death by the great sage of Acheron town. No one could be blamed for this, although they all felt that Zhang Xian's death was unjust. Outside the city gate, 3 figures dashed over at high speed. They landed on the ground of Acheron town. Everyone's eyes lit up and they all looked over. When they saw it, they couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. That little chef isn't dead. He's still alive? And he's unscathed? How is that possible? Wasn't that little chef targeted by the skeleton? He's really lucky. The fluctuations of the battle just now were so terrifying, but that little chef is still alive. When the nether prison experts saw the expressionless and unscathed Bufong, they couldn't help but talk. Jin Jiao and Yu Ji brought Bufong to the square. Yin Jiao and Luo Ji flew over and surrounded him. When they saw that Bufong was not dead, they couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. When they heard that the experts of the Cave of the Fallen Gods had joined the battle, they all thought that Bufong was dead. But the boy was still alive and well. By the way, you have the jade plate, don't you? Jin Jiao seemed to think of something. He squinted at Bufong. Bufong nodded. He raised his hand, and a jade plate appeared in his palm. There was an eye-catching character written on it. Without a doubt, this was the jade plate that represented the first place, and it was in Bufong's hand. In the distance, the nether prison experts were annoyed when they saw the jade plate in Bufong's hand. They couldn't believe that the jade plate they had been looking for so long was in Bufong's hand. Didn't this mean that the one who won the first place in the individual competition was that weak little chef from the Heaven Chief realm? Many people saw the jade plate in Bufong's hand through the light screen. Then, they couldn't help but exclaim, if this little chef really won the first place in the semifinals, it would be equivalent to slapping the nether prison experts in the face. It was not a light slap. The nether prison experts considered themselves geniuses. Although they were in the second tier, they didn't put Bufong and the others in their eyes at all. But what happened in the end? In the end, the first place went to Bufong. Outside Acheron town, 2 figures approached slowly. They were F.A. Wu and F.A. Shang. F.A. Shang's face was a little gloomy because he didn't find the jade plate. The other jade plates had been divided by the nether prison experts. The contestants had all returned. Because the time was up, almost all of them returned empty-handed. F.A. Wu, however, held a jade plate in his hand. In the arena, Jin Jiao began to host again. He asked all the contestants who had obtained jade plates to step into the arena. 8 nether prison experts rose to their feet and stepped into the arena. They had risked their lives to obtain 8 jade plates. Together with the plate in Bufong's hand and F.A. Wu's, there were 10 jade plates in total. These 10 people were the top 10 in the semifinals, and they would go to nether prison for the final competition. It was somewhat unexpected. The Earth prison contestants were all wiped out. Only the West Little Buddhism realm and the Heaven Chief realm were left. The Heaven Chief realm. In the light screen, everyone fell silent, and some people didn't know whether to laugh or cry. The Heaven Chief realm was a very weak, small world, but its contestant had won the first place in the semifinals. It had to be said that this was quite ironic. The nether prison experts gnashed their teeth in anger. Zhang Xian was killed by Bufong's scheme. If it weren't for that, Zhang Xian would have led them to find all the jade plates. At that time, the top 10 of the semifinals would all be occupied by the nether prison experts. At that time, the way they looked at the audience below the arena would not be like this. They would definitely be as confident and arrogant as before. In the Heaven Chief realm, it was already boiling. The Great Demon had won the first place in the individual competition of the semifinals of the Netherworld's tournament of the Great Path. For them, this was simply a miracle. The Great Demon, as always, he never stops creating miracles. The Great Demon is the Great Demon, the pride of the Heaven Chief realm. The Great Demon is invincible. Try your best to win the final competition. The experts of the Heaven Chief realm screamed excitedly. Not only them, but even Meng Qi and the others sitting in front of the light screen chuckled. Indeed, Bufang had brought great glory to the Heaven Chief realm. They had thought that the Heaven Chief realm might become the cannon fodder of this competition. Who would have thought that because of Bufang, the Heaven Chief realm had become the biggest dark horse of this competition? For the Heaven Chief realm, this was enough. Even if Bufang lost the first match after entering Nether Prison, the Heaven Chief realm could still be proud. At least, it had shown its face in front of the experts from the surrounding small worlds. Jin Jiao put away the jade plate. Then, he announced the ranking. The Nether Prison experts were all angry when they heard the ranking. In particular, this ranking was a humiliation for them. The main thing was that the first and third places were actually taken by 2 experts from other small worlds. Once they returned to Nether Prison, they would certainly become the laughingstock of the first tier. Perhaps, at this time, they had already become the laughingstock of the first tier. Don't be too happy. The final competition will not be as easy as the semifinals. The people in the first tier are a bunch of freaks. The Nether Prison experts gritted their teeth and said to Bufang. They were dissatisfied with Bufang's attitude, so they wanted to get back at him. However, Bufang just glanced at them indifferently. What do you know? Unless you're the great sage, do you think you can kill me? You're dreaming, Bufang said. His words stunned the Nether Prison experts. Was he so arrogant? Why did it sound so strange coming from the mouth of a little saint? Well, have a good rest. The semi-finals of the individual competition and team competition are over, and the competition held in Earth Prison is about to end as well. The finals of the team competition and individual competition will be held in Nether Prison. You have 3 days to rest, and after that, you will go to Nether Prison. Jin Jiao said. There was a complicated look in his eyes. Earth Prison didn't have a place in the finals of the individual competition. Fortunately, Earth Prison qualified for the team competition and had a chance to compete with Nether Prison. Otherwise, it would be a slap in the face for Earth Prison. As an organizer, no contestant had entered the finals. After Jin Jiao announced the end of the competition, Bufang left the arena. He returned to the inn. As soon as he entered the inn, he saw that the doors of Zhu Yin and the others were still closed. Obviously, they were still cultivating and trying to break through. Bufang returned to his room, washed his face, and rinsed his mouth before taking a good rest. The battle and competition this time was also a huge burden for him. After relaxing for a while, then he entered the Heaven and Earth farmland. Nowadays, the farmland was filled with rich spiritual energy. The apprentice chefs were all cultivating there. Cultivating in a place with such dense heaven and earth spiritual chi, the acolytes' cultivation had already skyrocketed, especially Xiao Xiaolong and Yu Fu. The spiritual energy in the Light Wind Empire was hundreds of times worse than in the Heaven and Earth farmland. They were not on the same level at all. After going through cultivation, their cultivation rose rapidly. Liu Cheng's sacred nether puppet was smashed by the skeleton in golden armor. Therefore, Bufang could not get the puppet's heart from Liu Cheng for Xiaobai to repair. If he wanted to get the puppet's heart, he had to step into Nether Prison. And this time, Bufang had a feeling that entering Nether Prison would not be so easy. In his view, Nether Prison seemed to be shrouded in a huge haze. It was full of danger. Therefore, he didn't dare to be careless. He had to make more preparations before entering Nether Prison. Of course, Bufang had also thought of this. Nether Prison was an overlord-level small world. The purchasing power of the people there was absolutely strong. If Bufang wanted to improve his cultivation base, he had to increase his turnover. So, choosing what dish to cook had become a headache. So for the next 3 days, Bufang studied dishes in the farmland. The days of studying dishes were always pleasant and short. 3 days passed quickly. On the 3rd day, Bufang left the farmland. Yu and Little Hu stayed in the farmland. Creak. Bufang opened the door. Zhu Yin and the others were already waiting at the door. That gave Bufang pause. Now, Zhu Yin and the others were refreshed, and their cultivation bases seemed to have been greatly improved. During this trip to Hell, they had obtained many fortuitous encounters and tremendous benefits. They were very excited. The thought of being able to represent Heaven Chief Realm in the Nether Prison Finals filled them with a sense of honor. In the square, At some point, a huge array had been drawn. It covered the whole arena. The contestants came one after another. Fa Wu saw Bu Fong from a distance and nodded at Bu Fong. During these 3 days, 5 contestants from the West Little Buddhism Realms team competition had been replaced. One by one, they stepped into the arena. The Nether Prison experts fixed their eyes on Bu Fong. As the champion of the individual competition, Bu Fong naturally became a thorn in the side of the Nether Prison experts. However, they all sneered. Once he entered Nether Prison, that would be their home ground. At that time, this little chef would be at their mercy. But in the midst of the hubbub, Liu Chung stuck out his butt and threw one crystal after another into the grooves of the array. Immediately, the array was activated. Light bloomed. A white beam of light suddenly fell from the sky. In an instant, it covered the whole arena. The light faded. The group of people in the arena also disappeared. Jin Jiao, Yu Ji, and the others couldn't help but take a deep breath as they watched the light fade away. Next, it would depend on their performance in Nether Prison, and they would really meet the geniuses of Nether Prison's best team. Those terrifying geniuses. Chapter 1291. Hell, the Forbidden Land, the Black Temple. A wave of rumbling suddenly resounded, and then a dog's howl resounded into the heavens. Terrifying nether energy suddenly burst out, enveloping the entire Black Temple in an instant. Amidst the monstrous nether energy, there seemed to be a looming black dog raising its paw and slapping at the Black Temple. The paw hit the Black Temple squarely. With a loud boom, the entire Black Temple trembled under the paw. With a cracking sound, a huge dog paw print appeared on the sturdy Black Temple. Boom! Inside the Black Temple, a terrifying murderous aura soared into the sky. A shadow of a dagger shot out of the Black Temple. Damn mangy dog, you're courting death. The aged voice was filled with uncontrollable rage as it directly resounded. In the Black Temple, an aura suddenly soared. An expert wrapped in black bandages, who looked like a mummy, shot out and floated in the void. However, when he rushed out, he found that the black dog had already run away. All that was left was an empty paw print on the palace. This scene made the expert so angry that he almost vomited blood. He had never seen such a shameless dog. How regretful. I should have stabbed this mangy dog to death with my dagger. Then I wouldn't have left behind today's disaster. The dog didn't fight with him, but kept harassing the Black Temple. This feeling annoyed him to no end. It would be fine if the dog's strength was weaker. But the dog was so strong. It would be fine if the dog dared to attack the Black Temple. After all, the Black Temple was a forbidden land, his base camp, and possessed all kinds of forbidden techniques. If the dog dared to enter, it would lose a layer of skin even if it didn't die. But the black dog refused to come in. Just like that, it kept harassing the Black Temple and slapped it from time to time. How infuriating. Don't let me catch you. Otherwise, I'll skin you alive and make you into a dog meat hot pot. The deafening voice continued to spread, as if it wanted to shatter the surrounding world. Buzz, his silhouette shot out of the Black Temple. It was also an expert wrapped in black bandages. I didn't get the senseless lotus. This shouldn't have happened. A first-stage little saint, Ant couldn't even snatch the senseless lotus from me. Useless. Go to Nether Prison immediately and assassinate that ant. Assassination is what we are best at. You must not fail again. Also, bring me the senseless lotus. With the senseless lotus as the key, I will be able to break out of the restriction of this forbidden area. When that time comes, the world is vast, and I'm free to soar. Even if that black dog runs to the ends of the earth, I'll still be able to hunt it down. The figure wrapped in black bandages nodded. A dark golden hue appeared in his eyes. There was a tearing noise. A dagger, shrouded in black chi, suddenly floated out of the leader's body and landed in the hands of the expert wrapped in bandages. I'll bestow upon you the soul-reaping dagger. This is the dagger that you used to assassinate Hades Tenzang back then. Today, I'll bestow it upon you. Bring that little saint's head to me. A hoarse voice rang through the air. The figure's eyes flashed as he nodded. Then, he turned into a black shadow and disappeared into the void. Nether prison. It was quite vast, but compared with the vast Earth prison, it was still much smaller. There were 3 prisons in the Netherworld: Ruin Prison, Earth Prison, and Nether Prison. The Ruin Prison was the smallest and had the lowest energy level, so it didn't produce many top experts. Earth Prison and Nether Prison were actually comparable, but because Earth Prison was much larger, the distribution of spiritual energy was thinner than Nether Prison. It didn't produce as many top experts as Nether Prison. However, although Nether Prison had more resources than Earth Prison, Nether Prison had a larger population and more geniuses. Therefore, Nether Prison's experts had always coveted Earth Prison. They wanted to invade Earth Prison, but at that time, Earth Prison had Hades Tenzing. He fought his way from Earth Prison to Nether Prison, seriously injuring the experts of the 9 clans. After that, Nether Prison also fell into a period of rest. This also gave Earth Prison time to linger. Hades Tenzing was dead, and the great sage of the 9 clans was about to recover completely. Once the great sage recovered, he would attack Earth Prison again. At that time, without Hades Tenzing, how could Earth Prison resist? However, Nether Prison also had a major external threat. This was why Nether Prison had been in a hurry to expand. It was like a giant beast that devoured the void, opening its mouth and constantly devouring Nether Prison. One day, it would devour Nether Prison. There were 9 clans in Nether Prison. There were 9 clans, but there were only 5 major cities. They were built by the top 5 clans among the 9 clans in Nether Prison. As for the remaining 4 clans, although they also had cities, they couldn't be counted as big cities. Sacred Puppet City. It was the city of the Nether Puppeteer clan, which ranked second among the 9 clans of Nether Prison. This city was very magnificent, and it was the gathering place of many famous people in Nether Prison. Of course, the clan lands of the 9 clans were separated from the big cities. The big cities were used to manage the population and earn resources. The clan lands, on the other hand, were important places for each of the 9 clans. Although it was the big city of the Nether Puppeteer clan, it was home to the experts of the 9 clans. And this time, the finals of the Netherworld's Tournament of the Great Path would be held in Sacred Puppet City. Buzz in the teleportation pavilion of Sacred Puppet City. A burst of light suddenly flickered. Then, a mysterious ripple spread out from the teleportation pavilion, dispersing unceasingly. After a long time, when the light faded, one figure after another appeared in the pavilion. Buffon opened his eyes and clasped his hands behind his back, his vermilion robe fluttering in the wind. As far as he could see, he seemed to be in a splendidly decorated pavilion. Zhu Yin and the others, who followed behind Buffon, also widened their eyes and looked around in disbelief. It was the first time they had come to Nether Prison, so they naturally felt very strange. Nether Prison was an overlord-class small world. Zhu Yin and the others didn't even dare to think that they could come to Nether Prison. The spiritual energy in the air was very rich, and it seemed to be even richer than in Earth Prison. Of course, the first thing that came into view was the teleportation pavilion that shocked them. The top of the pavilion was painted with all kinds of dazzling and cool portraits. This pavilion was made by a master of Sacred Puppet City. If these portraits are auctioned, they can fetch a sky-high price. Liu Cheng was quite proud when he saw the shocked faces of the crowd. As a member of the Nether Puppeteer clan, he naturally knew the pride of the clan. He turned to look at Buffon, Fa Wu, and the others. A cold look came over his face. Let's see if you can still be so arrogant when you're in Nether Prison's territory. Liu Cheng sneered. The fact that the Heaven Chief Realm, a small world that had lagged behind for countless years, won the first place in the semifinals was a slap in the face for Nether Prison. But it was fine now. Once they reached Nether Prison, they would meet the geniuses of Nether Prison's best team. Although Zhang Xian was not bad, he could only be regarded as a weakling among the geniuses of Nether Prison's best team. Let's go. Let's leave the teleportation pavilion first. The organizer should be waiting for us at the entrance. Liu Cheng glanced at Buffon and the others, who were still looking around in surprise. The nether prison contestants, on the other hand, looked disdainfully at Bufong and the others as if they were country bumpkins from the countryside. However, in their eyes, Bufong and the others were country bumpkins who had never seen the world at all. Lu Cheng led the way. His hip was slightly tilted. Obviously, his injury had not healed yet. After walking out of the teleportation pavilion, they came to a long corridor. They walked straight along it and soon came out. When they came out, everything in front of them suddenly widened. A magnificent city emerged in front of them. It was densely populated, bustling with traffic, and all kinds of flying tools were flying around. The light screen flickered, broadcasting all kinds of images. Compared with the other small worlds, the development of culture, entertainment, and art of cultivation in Nether Prison's great cities was much stronger. The scene was also transmitted to the surrounding small worlds through the teleportation array. The reason why Nether Prison had chosen Sacred Puppet City as the venue was to let the surrounding small worlds feel the advancement and strength of Nether Prison. It created the feeling that Nether Prison was a holy city. Obviously, when the image of Sacred Puppet City was transmitted through the teleportation array, it shocked the people in the surrounding small worlds. Wingman Valley, West Little Buddhism Realm, Earth Prison, Heaven Chief Realm. When the people in the small world saw the scene, they suddenly felt that their world was so backward. Bufong, however, was expressionless. The cultivation civilization of Nether Prison was indeed advanced, and it seemed that it had transformed the cultivation civilization into technology. However, in his previous life, Bufong had been influenced by technology for a while, so he was not too shocked by all this. Tap, 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 a crisp sound of footsteps rang out. In the distance, a young man, carrying a huge puppet on his back, led a group of people and slowly walked over from afar. It's Lu Yu, the genius of the first echelon of Nether Puppeteer clan. Someone among the Nether Prison geniuses recognized the man and exclaimed. The young man with the puppet on his back had a fair face, a somewhat cold look in his eyes, and a proud aura emanated from him. As the genius of the second-ranked clan among the 9 Nether Prison clans, he naturally had his own arrogance. Lu Cheng walked over with the crowd. We're here. Lu Yu glanced at Lu Cheng, and a gentle look came over his face. After all, Lu Cheng was a member of the Nether Puppeteer clan, and he had a good relationship with Lu Yu. After greeting Lu Cheng, Lu Yu turned his eyes and rested them on Bufong and the others. Lu Cheng whispered a lot in Lu Yu's ear. Lu Yu's eyes grew colder and sharper. Finally, he fixed his eyes on Bufong. First place in the semifinals? The corner of Lu Yu's mouth twitched, and he gave a disdainful sneer. Well, I got it. After all, the second-tier contestants were eliminated in the genius competition. Although Zhang Xian is commendable, he's too weak to be arrogant in Nether Prison, Lu Yu said. Lu Cheng nodded. Lu Cheng nodded. Bufong fixed his eyes on Lu Yu. Lu Cheng's sacred nether puppet and its heart were destroyed by the skeleton in golden armor, so Bufong didn't pay any more attention to him. Repairing Xiao Bai required the puppet's heart, so Bufong's attention was immediately fixed on Lu Yu, who was carrying the puppet on his back. Bufong's gaze made Lu Yu frown slightly. He felt a little puzzled. However, he didn't think too much about it. In the first tier, there were 2 contestants from the Nether Puppeteer clan. In addition to Lu Yu, there was an even more terrifying genius. Even if he couldn't stop those guys from the Heaven Chief realm, with that guy around, they wouldn't be able to do anything. Besides, how could he not stop them? The corner of Lu Yu's mouth twitched, and he smiled disdainfully. Welcome to Nether Prison, everyone. The lot drawing for the finals will be held tomorrow. Tonight, as the host of Nether Prison, we have arranged a reception for you in the largest restaurant in Nether Prison. I hope you can come in time, Lu Yu said with a chuckle. After saying that, jade talismans appeared in his hand. He threw them out one by one. They flew toward Bufong and the others. These are the admission tickets to the reception. Take them well. If you don't have an admission ticket, you won't be able to enter the venue. It will be very embarrassing if you are stopped outside the reception, Lu Yu said lightly. Bufong raised his hand and grabbed the jade talisman. He slowly retracted his gaze and looked at the jade talisman in his hand. There was a gentle energy flowing in the jade talisman. I heard that you're the champion of the semi-final individual competition, right? The one who tricked Zhang Xian? After handing out the jade talismans, Lu Yu's eyes locked on Bufang. The corner of his mouth twitched as he said disdainfully, "You're very famous now. You picked the hell senseless lotus, tricked Zhang Xian, and won the first place in the individual competition. Many people want to meet you, so you must come to the reception tonight." Lu Yu raised his hand and patted Bufang's shoulder, looking appreciative. The nether prison experts couldn't help laughing, looking at Bufang with a playful look. Bufang's face was expressionless as he glanced at Lu Yu. Then his eyes locked on the puppet on Lu Yu's back. He raised his hand and gently patted the puppet's shoulder. Bufang made his move. The whole place quieted down. Lu Yu's face turned cold in an instant. For the experts of the Nether Puppeteer clan, their sacred nether puppet was not allowed to be touched by others. That was where their pride and dignity lay. However, just as Lu Yu was about to speak, Bufang spoke again. Bufang raised his eyes slightly, looking at Lu Yu with a serious and sincere look. "Your puppet is not bad. How much are you selling it for? How much is 1 pound?" As soon as he said that, everyone was stunned. Chapter 1292. Sacred Puppet City. Outside the 10-mile teleportation booth, the atmosphere was very awkward for a while. Everyone was dumbfounded as they stared at the two figures in the distance, who were standing shoulder to shoulder. Lu Yu, the genius expert of Sacred Puppet City, had his puppet touched by a man. For the experts of the Nether Puppeteer clan, their puppets were as holy and inviolable as their moral integrity. Under normal circumstances, the puppets of the Nether Puppeteer clan would not be exposed. Liu Cheng, for example, would only expose his puppet when he was fighting. However, because Liu Yu had learned from the top genius of the Nether Puppeteer clan, he had learned to carry a puppet on his back. He claimed that it was to promote the communication between the human and the puppet and enhance the control of the puppet. In fact, it was just to show off. In the eyes of the Nether Puppeteer clan's experts, it was very cool. But in the eyes of the experts of the other clans, it was a situation where one's chastity was exposed. Of course, under normal circumstances, no one would be stupid enough to touch a puppet. After all, only a fool would offend a genius. However, Bufang didn't know. Many people were dumbfounded. When they saw Bufang's palm touch the puppet's body, many people's eyes were filled with shock and surprise. Of course, when they heard what Bufang said, their shock was magnified to the extreme. "This puppet is not bad. How much is it for a kilo?" They couldn't believe that this little chef could ask such a question. Did he think he was buying vegetables? The hearts of many nether prison geniuses seemed to be stirred by stormy waves. They looked at Bufang as if they were looking at a monster. A newborn calf is not afraid of a tiger. To Lu Yu, Bufang's words were, it was as if he was asking, "This chastity is not bad. How much is it for a kilo?" That kind of awkwardness, that kind of weirdness, Lu Yu's face darkened all of a sudden, and his eyes became very cold. "Get your dirty hands off me," Lu Yu said coldly, his words as sharp as a blade. The surrounding people all took a deep breath. Lu Yu was furious. This boy is finished. Bufang's expression remained the same as he looked at Lu Yu indifferently. "I'm serious. This puppet is really not bad. How much is it for 500 grams? Also, I heard that your puppets have sacred nether puppet hearts. How much are you selling them for? I can increase the price. I don't lack money." Bufang said. He spoke very sincerely, and there seemed to be light shining in his eyes. Hiss, hiss, hiss. How dare he covet the sacred nether puppet's heart? He must be crazy. Aren't you afraid that the Nether Puppeteer clan will hunt you down? Let go, Lu Yu said coldly, his face as cold as iron. However, Bufang seemed to ignore his words and patted the puppet again. "You're really not bad. I also have a puppet companion. He's weak now. I'll introduce him to you another day." Bufang said seriously, "You're still taking pictures?" Lu Yu's eyes were almost bursting with killing intent. Bufang's hands seemed to be constantly patting his virginity. It made his heart tremble. However, He snorted disdainfully at the puppet Bufong mentioned. In the holy city of the Nether Puppeteer clan, he was talking about puppets. What puppet in the world could compare to the sacred Nether puppet of the Nether Puppeteer clan? Calm down. The projection array is broadcasting now. If you kill them in the street, it will make our Nether prison's mouth open. It's not good. When Liu Cheng saw Liu Yu's dark face, he hurried over and said to him. Liu Yu furrowed his brows slightly. The anger in his heart was immediately suppressed. Yes, Liu Cheng was right. He had no choice but to swallow his anger. The expression on his face stiffened slightly. Then he gave a stiff smile, raised his hand, and forcibly pulled Bufong's hand off his puppet. Then everyone, I'll see you tonight, Liu Yu said, almost gnashing his teeth. After that, he quickly left with his men. He was afraid that if he stayed here any longer, he would go crazy and kill that boy. The Nether prison experts also left. Bufong withdrew his hand, a look of pity on his face. What a pity. I really want to buy his puppet. Bufong smacked his lips and said. Inside the light screen, everyone couldn't help but smile. This little chef is a master of infuriating people to death. For the Nether Puppeteer clan, the sacred Nether puppet was their virginity. He patted someone's virginity and asked how much it cost. Did he think he was buying vegetables? Liu Yu had good self-restraint by not killing him in the street. The Nether prison geniuses followed Liu Yu and left. Only one of his men was left, looking disdainfully at Bufong and the others. The people of Nether prison were born with a sense of superiority. It was the same for geniuses and their men. The man took Bufong and the others to an inn. This was the inn that the organizers had specially prepared for Bufong and the others. The environment of the inn was very good, with high mountains and flowing water. It was very elegant. In this big Nether prison city, where every inch of land was worth its weight in gold, it was already very good to have such an inn. Bufong returned to his room. He was already deep in thought. Nether prison was very prosperous, and it could be said to be the most prosperous city Bufong had ever seen. Prosperity also represented purchasing power. If he could open a branch in Nether prison, it would be a good choice. However, this matter was not urgent. I'd better get the sacred Nether puppet's heart first, and he'll shall buy. However, the idea of opening a branch in Sacred Puppet City took root in Bufong's mind. If he were to open a branch in this city, the speed of his revenue would definitely skyrocket. At that time, the level of his cultivation would also reach a rapid level. Bufong sat in his room, deep in thought. Time flew by quickly. The sun went down the mountain, covering her blushing face. A crisp knock on the door interrupted Bufong's thoughts. Bufong opened the door. It was Zhu Yin and the others. It was time to go to the wine party. In fact, Bufong refused to attend the wine party at first. He didn't really want to attend it. However, on second thought, he knew that there would be a lot of dishes at the wine party. He could go and have a look and enjoy the Nether prison's food. At the same time, he could also pay attention to the puppet of the Nether Puppeteer clan. If he could buy the sacred Nether puppet's heart with money, it would save him a lot of trouble. So, under the expectant gazes of Zhu Yin and the others, Bufong nodded, closed the door, and walked out of the inn with them. The group of people left the inn one after another. Although the Jade Talisman was an invitation, it also marked the location of the restaurant. The city was very large. Bufong and the others walked for a long time before they finally found a restaurant. It was completely dark. The streets, however, were brightly lit and looked quite prosperous. Is this the restaurant where the wine party is held? It's so big. Zhu Yin and the others were shocked. Looking at the restaurant in front of them, they sucked in a cold breath. It's indeed domineering. I have to say that this restaurant is indeed prosperous, but that's only on the surface. A restaurant's main purpose is to serve delicious dishes. If the dishes don't pass the test, no matter how prosperous it is, it's useless. We're the Heaven Chief of the Heaven Chief realm. It's not easy for dishes to pass our test. Mo Yin and the others talked to each other. Bufong didn't say anything. He just put his hands behind his back and walked slowly. The entrance of the restaurant was very spacious, built of large green jade and full of grandeur. It was guarded by experts who were half-stepped to the little saint level. The people in front of the entrance were all celebrities. Bu Fong and the others came to the entrance, handed over the jade talisman, and stepped into the restaurant. Stepping through the door, they stepped on a carpet made of the fur of a powerful savage beast, which was laid all the way to the spiral staircase. Colorful chandeliers were hanging in the restaurant, and the chandeliers were projecting colorful splendor. The brilliance was dazzling and dazzling. Bu Fong and the others stepped into the restaurant, went up the spiral staircase, and came to the hall. In the hall, soft and slow music was playing. The music was very soothing, and listening to it made people feel relaxed. In the hall, there were many people. Many celebrities were walking around. In the restaurant, there were many round tables covered with red cloths. After Bu Fong and the others arrived, a voice called out to them. It was Fa Wu in the distance. He was sitting in front of a table. When he saw Bu Fong and the others, he hurriedly called out to them. Bu Fong took Zhu Yin and the others to sit down. Owner Bu, you're finally here. Can you feel it? Fa Wu pulled Bu Fong to sit next to him and whispered. Feel what? Bu Fong was slightly taken aback. The atmosphere, don't you think it's very subtle? Look at the eyes of the people around you. None of them has good intentions, Fa Wu said. This reception is not as simple as just welcoming us. This penniless monk can already sense that they are up to no good. Fa Wu sighed. Nether Prison is indeed an overlord-class small world. It's very powerful. With so many experts, we dare not act presumptuously here. Fa Wu said, touching his bald head. Bu Fong nodded, but he didn't say anything. He turned his head and fixed his eyes on Lu Yu in the distance. Lu Yu seemed to sense something. He turned his head abruptly and saw Bu Fong. Their gazes collided. Lu Yu's eyes suddenly became sharp. His killing intent was awe-inspiring. He would not rest until this guy who had touched his chastity was dead. But the banquet soon began. The music in the hall became more and more fast-paced. The experts from the Heaven Chief realm and the West Little Buddhism realm sat at the same table, surrounded by Nether Prison experts. The Earth Prison experts shared a table with the Nether Prison experts, sitting on one side, cowering and not daring to make sound. An uproar broke out. Suddenly, an uproar broke out. The lights flickered. In the distance, a figure slowly walked down the spiral staircase. It's Liu Ban. He's a genius from the Nether Puppeteer clan. He's one of the 3 emperors of the younger generation. Some people saw the figure, and they all burst into an uproar. The Nether Prison experts looked at the figure with great enthusiasm and awe. Even Lu Yu's eyes were bursting with excitement. It was a young man with black hair and black eyes. His eyes were cold, and he carried a puppet on his back. He looked somewhat similar to Lu Yu. The young man turned his eyes and fixed them on Bu Fong's table. His gaze passed through the crowd and fell on Bu Fong. I'm very interested in the senseless lotus, the young man said softly. His voice rang out, silencing all the people present. Everyone turned their eyes and fixed them on Bu Fong. Liu Ban, one of the 3 emperors of the younger generation, finally spoke. Hand over the senseless lotus now. Lord Liu Ban has spoken. A Nether Prison expert looked at Bu Fong, who was still sitting in his seat, and shouted. The atmosphere suddenly became stagnant. Lu Yu's pupils constricted. My brother Ban is interested in the senseless lotus. Hand over the senseless lotus. Hand it over, Lu Yu said lightly. In just a split second, the atmosphere became tense. The people at the same table as Bu Fong all held their breaths. So many terrible auras locked on them, causing their eyes to narrow. The banquet was not broadcasted through the projection array. Therefore, the Nether Prison geniuses seemed to be somewhat unscrupulous. Liu Ban looked indifferently at Bu Fong. The cultivation base of the little saint was nothing in his eyes. However, this was a banquet after all. He didn't want to mess it up because of him. So, he raised his hand and gently pressed it down. That's enough. Everyone, please be quiet. I'm just discussing it with him. After all, he's a guest from afar. Don't scare them, Liu Ban said. When the Nether Prison experts heard that, they all chimed in. The 3 emperors of the younger generation were strong contenders for the champion of the individual competition in the Netherworld's tournament of the Great Path. Their status was extremely transcendent. They were even comparable to the elders of the clan. Since Lu Ban had spoken, they would no longer force Bu Fong and the others. "Oh, your puppet seems to be very good. It's much better than the puppets I've seen before. If I may ask, I'm also very interested in your puppet. How much is it for a kilo?" Suddenly, just when everyone was about to start the banquet, an indifferent voice suddenly resounded. Everyone froze. Lu Yu's body shook. What a familiar voice. Everyone's pupils constricted as they turned to look at Bu Fong. What did he say? "How dare you? Kneel down. Who are you to mention Lord Lu Ban's puppet? You're courting death." A guy who won first place in the semifinals by luck really thinks he's somebody. The Nether Prison experts roared at the same time. They all stared coldly and mockingly at Bu Fong. Lu Ban's face was extremely cold. "I hate it when people mention my puppet. Do you want to cut your tongue out myself? Or do you want to cut it out yourself and kowtow to me to apologize?" Lu Ban said lightly. His tone was cold and ruthless, and his eyes were high and mighty. He looked at Bu Fong as if he was looking at an insignificant ant. "Since Brother Lu Ban doesn't like this guy, I'll cut his tongue out for you." Suddenly, a voice suddenly resounded. That gave everyone pause. Then they turned to look at the source of the voice. Suddenly, a dazzling sword light soared into the sky as if to tear it apart. The dazzling sword light made everyone suck in a breath of air. "It's Zhang Qiubai from the Sword Demon clan, the first echelon. Has he come to avenge Zhang Xian?" someone exclaimed. In the next moment, a streak of sword light soared into the sky, abruptly shooting toward Bu Fong's head, who was sitting peacefully on his seat. Chapter 1293. Zhang Qiubai. He was the top genius of the Sword Demon clan, and also one of the top 10 contestants in the finals. He was very strong. Although he was not called one of the 3 emperors of the younger generation, he was already very talented to be one of the top experts of the younger generation. With a single slash of his sword, the smoke and dust seemed to be shattered by this one slash. The whistling sound of the sword tore through the sky and slashed toward Bu Fong's head. It was as if it was going to cut Bu Fong in half. His speed was so fast that it exceeded everyone's expectations. Lu Ban clasped his hands behind his back, his face cold. Zhang Qiubai's attack was a little beyond his expectation. Zhang Qiubai had comprehended the sword intent of the Sword Demon clan, and his strength was very formidable. He would be a formidable opponent. However, Lu Ban didn't take him seriously. In Lu Ban's eyes, only the other 2 of the 3 sovereigns were qualified to be his opponents in the finals. As for Zhang Qiubai, he was still far from that level. A terrible sword light approached. The experts of the Heaven Chief realm felt cold all over, as if they were completely wrapped in cold ice. The terrible coldness made them feel as if they had fallen into an ice cave. "He's dead. This chef from the Heaven Chief realm is dead. Once Zhang Qiubai draws his sword, no one can survive. This is the price he deserves." Who told him to kill Zhang Xian in the semifinals? The Nether Prison experts all had gloating looks on their faces. The corners of Lu Yu's mouth curved upward. Looking at Bu Fong, who was about to fall under Zhang Qiubai's sword, he felt a little excited. Fa Wu's face froze, and a bitter look came over his face. He didn't expect that a Nether Prison expert would attack without any warning. He didn't take the contestants seriously at all. Honorable was probably going to die this time. The Earth Prison experts were even more frightened. They watched the scene in fear. There was indeed no one worthy of praise among the younger generation in Earth Prison today. It was very difficult for a peerless genius like the old Hades Tenzing to appear in hell again. Bu Fong looked indifferently at the sharp sword that was slashing towards him. His gaze sharpened. The other party actually wanted to kill him without saying a single word. Didn't he see that he was preparing to buy a puppet's heart? The deal that was almost completed was ruined just like that. Therefore, Bu Fong was a little angry. "Can't you see I'm in the middle of a business discussion?" Bu Fong said lightly. "Do you know how much I value that puppet?" Bu Fong looked at the sword without changing his expression. The next moment, Zhang Xian flipped his hand. A rainbow-colored dumpling appeared in his hand. Above the dumpling, a seven-colored light flowed. It was like a dazzling rainbow. Hmm? The nether prison experts were stunned. Are those dumplings? In the face of Zhang Qiubai's sword, you just F asterisk king responded with a dumpling? At least give me some face. Liu Ban's eyes also narrowed. Zhang Qiubai's face was cold. His whole body seemed to have turned into a beam of sword light. The sword shook as if it had turned into a brilliant sword cry. Swish! The sword slashed through the rainbow-colored dumpling. In an instant, the divine seal dumpling exploded. With a bang, it exploded. A rich aroma spread, slightly startling the people present. Zhang Qiubai's sword kept slashing. How could a mere dumpling resist him? However, the rainbow-colored dumpling was broken. The cloud of dust that was emitted enveloped Lin Dong's entire body. That feeling suddenly caused a chill to rise all over his body. This feeling, Zhang Qiubai's eyes suddenly shrank. He felt that his body seemed to be petrified. Completely stiff, this Bufang slowly stood up. His face was cold. The bandage in his hand immediately loosened, and the strips of bandage scattered in the air. A moment later, yin and yang energy swirled. Bufang raised his fist. Buzz, a bestial roar suddenly came from Bufang's fist. As it spun, it was deafening. On his fist, there seemed to be the shadow of a beast emerging. He suddenly threw a punch. Swoosh! Under everyone's dumbfounded gazes, this punch, which contained the shadow of a beast, smashed into Zhang Qiubai's face. Boom! A rumble rang out. Zhang Qiubai's eyes suddenly shrank. A terrible force instantly spread across his face, and he felt as if his nose was about to break. His whole body was smashed and sent flying backward. At this moment, his sword energy completely collapsed. The nether prison experts were dumbfounded, staring blankly at the scene. Wrapped in sword light, Zhang Qiubai flew backward like a cannonball and smashed into a table in the distance, completely shattering it. It was just one move, he was defeated. Zhang Qiubai, what happened? How could it be so terrifying? The nether prison experts all fell silent. No one had thought that such a situation would happen. That was Zhang Qiubai, the top genius of the Sword Demon clan, who had comprehended the slaughter sword intent. However, he was sent flying by a punch from the chef from the Heaven Chief realm. Zhang Qiubai himself was a little confused. He fell to the ground, dazed. Then, he flipped over and stood up. His nose was broken, and blood kept gushing out of it. His head was a little muddled. So you have some tricks. No wonder you could pick this senseless lotus. Liu Yu took a deep breath, and his eyes narrowed. No wonder you could kill Zhang Xian. Zhang Qiubai got up from the ground, wiped the blood from his nose, and narrowed his eyes meaningfully at Bufang. You have some tricks, but your strength is a little weak. With this kind of strength, you can't go far. Zhang Qiubai sheathed his sword. It was a simple and unadorned bronze sword, and he carried it on his back. He was a genius of the Sword Demon clan, and he had his own pride. This time he was tricked by Bufang. He was not as skilled as Bufang and was careless. Therefore, he would not fly into a rage out of humiliation and attack again. He had his own style. Zhang Xian didn't die in vain. You have some tricks up your sleeves. However, if we meet again in the competition, I won't fall for your tricks again. When the time comes, I'll definitely kill you. Zhang Qiubai said. After he finished speaking, he ignored the mess on the floor and turned around, heading downstairs. Sword Devil Zhang Qiubai's personality was indeed different. How could he not retaliate after suffering such a loss? The nether prison experts fell silent as they watched Zhang Qiubai leave. Liu Ban looked at Zhang Qiubai and smirked. Monsters had their own perseverance. Zhang Qiubai's previous attack was only to avenge Zhang Xian. If Bufang couldn't take it and died, then he deserved it. Since he had caught it, Zhang Qiubai would not attack again. Those who practiced swordsmanship were prideful. However, the fact that this kid was able to block Zhang Qiubai's sword was somewhat beyond his expectations. Liu Ban looked at Bufang and narrowed his eyes. Just then, Bufang turned his head and looked at him. Well, let's continue talking about the puppet. Tell me, How much are you selling it for? Bufang said. When he heard Bufang's words, Lu Ban's eyes became cold again. Do you think you're invincible after defeating Zhang Qiubai? Zhang Qiubai was tricked by you, but that doesn't give you the right to be so arrogant in front of me. Lu Ban said coldly. Rumble. As soon as he finished speaking, Lu Ban's aura suddenly exploded out. The aura spread abruptly, causing the expressions of all present to change, including the nether prison experts. Their faces were full of shock and awe. This was the emperor of the younger generation. He was a 5-revolution little saint. He was comparable to the experts of the older generation. His aura was almost unstoppable, and it made everyone's legs tremble. Many people sucked in a deep breath of air as their hearts were filled with shock. The faces of Fa Wu and the others were even more unsightly. Under this aura, they couldn't even move. Is this the strength of the top echelon of Nether Prison? Is this the gap between us and the Nether Prison geniuses? Fa Wu gritted his teeth, his eyes full of reluctance. He was a genius of the West Little Buddhism realm, but his cultivation base had barely reached the 2-revolution Little Saint realm. Compared with Lu Ban, however, he was an eyesore. The gap was too big. It was so big that he even felt a little frustrated. Owner Bu, forget it. Let's just bow our heads and apologize. Fa Wu said with a pale face. He looked at Bufang helplessly. He's too strong. The Nether Prison geniuses are too strong. The other experts of the West Little Buddhism realm also bowed their heads in despair. However, contrary to their expectations, the result was the experts of the immortal cooking realm, on the other hand, had bright eyes. Under Lu Ban's aura, they all raised their heads unyieldingly. Their faces didn't change in the slightest, and they even stared at Bufang with enthusiasm. Their confidence in Bufang surprised many people. Under Lu Ban's pressure, Bufang was very calm, and his expression did not change. Lu Ban was one of the Nether Prison geniuses. His aura alone was enough to make people despair. Looking at Bufang, Lu Ban raised his hand and slapped the puppet. Boom! With a loud rumble, the puppet fell to the ground. The puppet's eyes suddenly opened, and a beam of light shot out. Boom! An aura spread over the puppet as well. The puppet's aura overlapped with Lu Ban's aura. It let out a deafening roar. Boom! The whole floor seemed to be enveloped in this pressure. Creak, creak. The tables seemed to be unable to bear the pressure and began to wail. The Nether Prison experts had already retreated to the distance in awe. Lu Yu stared at Lu Ban excitedly and fanatically. This was his idol. Although he was also one of the top echelon experts, he was far behind Lu Ban. After all, he was an emperor. Zhu Yin and the others from the Heaven Chief realm, who had raised their heads defiantly and fanatically, could not help but lower them at this moment. Their chairs were all shattered, turning into powder. Their knees were bent, and they almost fell to their knees. This was the power of an emperor. The reason why emperors were called emperors was because of their pressure and aura. Submit to me. Obediently hand over the senseless lotus. Lu Ban clasped his hands behind his back and stood side by side with his puppet. He stood high and mighty, like an emperor above the 9 heavens, looking down at all living beings. Fa Wu and the others couldn't even catch their breath. Honorable. Fa Wu gritted his teeth. Fa Wu gritted his teeth. He was puzzled by Bufang's persistence. Such an opponent was simply despairing. Why should he continue to persist? Zhu Yin and the others' confidence had disappeared. Their confidence in Bufang could not withstand the pressure. Their confidence was shaken. Owner Bu, why don't we submit? Zhu Yin said hesitantly. The eyes of Mo Yin and the others also turned red. Their spines were about to be bent by this pressure. They couldn't stand it anymore. Don't be afraid. Relax. Suddenly, Bufang's calm voice rang out. His voice rang out like bamboo shoots after a spring rain, stunning Mo Yin and the others. The next moment, they found that a mass of golden light spread from Bufang's body. The golden light surged and spread across their bodies. The pressure that had almost made them kneel disappeared in an instant. Bufang sat firmly where he was. He looked calmly at Lu Ban. His divine will spread out. To him, Lu Ban's pressure was like a breeze blowing a mountain. I came to talk business with you with a sincere heart, but you hit me. In that case, Bufong slowly rose from his seat. Everyone's gaze involuntarily landed on him. What is this chef from the Heaven Chief realm going to do? I don't have the senseless lotus. Do you want the sword pot? Bufong said lightly. The next moment, his divine will rolled out in an instant. The golden divine will wrapped around Bufong, making him look like a golden lotus with its petals open. In Bufong's palm was a khaki-colored clay pot, over which a mighty sword intent was surging. As soon as the pot appeared, Lu Ban's originally indifferent face suddenly trembled. His heart, which had always been calm, was suddenly filled with shock. Chapter 1294. The Sword Pot. An incomparably terrifying aura filled the air, filled with brutality and destruction. The majestic sword intent was like a majestic mountain that pressed down on everyone's heart, causing them to tremble uncontrollably. It was a very terrifying power. It was different from Lu Ban's pressure. This pressure contained the aura of death. It was as if facing this sword pot was facing death. Lu Ban, who had been very calm, could not stay calm this time. He didn't expect that Bufong could take out something like the sword pot. He knew more than anyone else how terrifying the sword pot was. As soon as the sword pot appeared, his aura seemed to be torn apart. This feeling shocked him. Sword pot, you actually have a means of this level? Lu Ban narrowed his eyes. Unfortunately, this kind of power is not something a first-stage little saint can master. The power of the sword pot made his heart palpitate. How could a first-stage little saint control it? What would happen after it exploded? Would they perish together? This was why Lu Ban sneered. He didn't believe that Bufong could control this power, but he had to admit that it was really strong. Whether I can control it or not, you'll know once you try, Bufong said lightly. He held the sword pot with one hand. A majestic sword intent lingered over the sword pot. It was surging and constantly leaking, as if it wanted to destroy everything. Outside the restaurant, Zhang Qiubai, who had just walked a short distance, jerked his head back. The bronze sword on his back was shaking. This feeling, which made his heart palpitate, seemed to make all the blood in his body surge. Strands of sword intent boiled in his blood like thin threads. What a strong and terrible sword intent. What the hell is this? Zhang Qiubai took a deep breath. Give it a try. Show me if you can, Lu Ban said coldly. Lu Ban said coldly. He slapped the sacred nether puppet's back with one hand, causing its aura to soar. Do you think I dare to throw it out? Bufong said lightly, holding the sword pot and looking at Lu Ban. Go ahead. Lu Ban glared. Do you think I dare to release it? Bufong twitched the corner of his mouth. You dare to release it? Lu Ban's eyes widened, and there seemed to be blood vessels bursting out of them. Why don't you guess if I dare to release it? Bufong raised his chin and said. At this moment, he felt as if he had been possessed by the howling white tiger and had become arrogant. Everyone present was speechless. Looking at Bufong and Lu Ban, who were shouting at each other, they didn't know what to say. Are these two jokers? However, they were still very shocked. The sword pot in Bufong's hand was really terrifying. The energy contained in it was very frightening. Once it exploded, who could withstand it? So, it was better not to throw it. Lu Ban's breathing was heavy for a moment. Suddenly, the ground trembled. Everyone present sucked in a breath of cold air. He abruptly turned his head and saw a figure slowly walking up the spiral staircase. It was a skinny boy. However, even though the young man was thin and weak, his hair was like steel needles that spread out in all directions. He exuded a fierce aura. It was a little strange to see him so thin and fierce. Hiss! Hiss! It's Ba Juetian, one of the 3 sovereigns. The sovereign of the tyrant clan. Why is he here? I don't remember inviting him to this reception, right? Ba Juetian, I can't believe 2 of the 3 sovereigns are here at this reception. When the people present saw the skinny boy, they couldn't help but be shocked. Their eyes were filled with disbelief. The skinny boy, Ba Juetian, slowly walked over. Hey, what are you guys doing? Are you going to fight? It looks lively. Count me in. Ba Juetian grinned. When Lu Ban saw Ba Juetian, the corner of his mouth couldn't help but twitch. Why is this lunatic here? Ba Juetian's appearance broke the stalemate. Lu Ban put away the puppet, and his eyes became indifferent. When Bu Fong saw Lu Ban put away the puppet, he also put away the sword pot. The Tyrant clan ranked third among the 9 clans in Nether Prison, second only to the Nether Puppeteer clan. The people of this clan were born with mighty bodies, and their strength was invincible. Their close-range combat strength was extremely fearsome, and no one would choose to fight them in close combat. Lu Yu, prepare a seat for Ba Juetian. The reception begins now. When Lu Ban saw Ba Juetian, he narrowed his eyes, waved his arm, snorted, and walked away. After a long stalemate, it was finally broken. Because of Ba Juetian's appearance, both sides took a step back. The reception finally began. The music, which had stopped, began to play again, and it echoed throughout the entire floor. Bu Fong sat down, twitching the corner of his mouth. Ba Juetian, the thin boy, didn't sit in the seat Lu Yu had arranged for him. Instead, he joined the Heaven Chief Realm's camp and sat next to Bu Fong. The boy had a thin face, but when he looked at Bu Fong, he grinned and laughed. You're the kid who plucked the senseless lotus. The patriarch of the Overlord faction said that he wants me to snatch the senseless lotus from you. Ba Juetian said. Bu Fong paused and gave Ba Juetian a puzzled look. He didn't seem to understand what this guy meant. I, Ba Juetian, have lived an upright life. I'm here to tell you that we'll meet in the arena, and we'll bet on the senseless lotus. What do you think? If you lose, give me the senseless lotus so that I can go back and report to my superiors. Ba Juetian said with a smile. He grinned, revealing a mouthful of white teeth. Oh, what if I win? Bu Fong said, looking at Ba Juetian. No. Except for that freak from the D-Ting clan, no one can beat me, not even little Lu Ban. Ba Juetian shook his head, waved his hand, and said. As soon as he had finished speaking, in the distance, Lu Ban's sharp eyes shot out, as if he wanted to devour someone. You came to my party to eat and drink, so don't talk nonsense, Lu Ban said coldly. Ba Juetian shrugged. But when it comes to temper, little Lu Ban is the best in the world. He's as proud as a little rooster. He's pretty stupid. Bu Fong nodded. Oh, the dishes are here. Let's not talk about them now. I'm starving. Ba Juetian's eyes went wide when he saw the maids come out with plates of dishes. Bu Fong's attention was also shifted to the dishes. Yes, his other purpose in coming to this banquet was to see what the Nether Prison's dishes were like. Colorful and fragrant dishes were served one after another on the dining table. The rich fragrance instantly enveloped the entire floor. It smells so good. Everyone present couldn't help but exclaim. This restaurant was worthy of being the #1 restaurant in Sacred Puppet City. Its dishes were extremely delicious. The chef of this restaurant was hired by little Lu Ban from the Nether Chef clan with a lot of money. It's said that he spent a lot of money on him. Ba Juetian said, I often come here for a free meal. Oh, a meal. I'm very familiar with this place. After saying that, Ba Juetian raised his hand, grabbed a plate, and stacked it in front of him. He opened his mouth, and with a swish, all the dishes on the plate were poured into his mouth. With a smacking sound, he closed his mouth and chewed. The entire dish was finished in a single mouthful. The people at the same table were all dumbfounded. Who eats like this? What else could they eat? Bu Fong glanced at Ba Juetian, and the corners of his mouth twitched. This guy is also a foodie. With that thought in his mind, Bu Fong grabbed his chopsticks. The aroma of the dishes cooked by these Nether chefs was not bad, and it tickled his taste buds. It piqued his interest. He picked up a dish with his chopsticks and put it in his mouth. His brows arched slightly. The sounds of toasting resounded in the surroundings. When it came to eating, everyone was rather harmonious. Lu Ban sat in his seat and picked up a wine cup with a satisfied look on his face. This restaurant was his pride, and he was even prouder to be able to hire a Nether chef as his chef. This meat is too cooked. There's too much chili, which has affected the taste of the main dish. I give you a bad review. Is this wine horse piss? I give you a bad review. Suddenly, a faint voice rang out. The smile on Lu Ban's face froze. He didn't expect that someone would be dissatisfied with his dishes. He picked up a dish with his chopsticks and put in his mouth. The delicious aroma made his eyes narrow slightly. Is he here to cause trouble? Lu Ban thought to himself, then turned his head to look. He happened to see Bu Fong speaking with an expressionless face. Those disdainful words came from Bu Fong's mouth. Ba Juetian, who was holding a plate of food, was already stunned. He was a little confused when he saw Bu Fong point out the shortcomings of a dish with disdain after tasting it. This dish, does it have so many tricks? Isn't it just delicious? At the end of Bu Fong's words, Ba Juetian looked at the dish in his hand and felt that it was tasteless. Eat my ass, he gulped down a mouthful of wine. Ba Juetian arched his brows. Horse piss? This is a fine wine brewed by a nether prison chef. How could it be horse piss? Ba Juetian could say whatever he liked about the dish, but he couldn't tolerate someone calling the wine horse piss. With a thud, he smashed his wine cup on the table and looked at Bu Fong discontentedly. This is my favorite wine, and you said it's horse piss? How's a horse piss? If you don't give me a reason, I'll beat you up first today. Ba Juetian said. As he looked at Bu Fong, a golden light flashed in his eyes, and a mighty aura flashed and disappeared. Bu Fong gave Ba Juetian a surprised look. From Ba Juetian's body, Lin Fan could feel a surge of blood aura. This blood aura was extremely powerful. Although he looked thin, his blood chi was as terrible as an ancient savage beast. However, Ba Juetian's question, Bu Fong was too lazy to answer. With a thought in his mind, he took out a jar of Frost Blaze Path Understanding Brew. Yes, it was the Frost Blaze Path Understanding Brew. He had run out of Acheron's wine of helplessness. The last jar was drunk by the great sage Acheron. However, Bu Fong felt that the Frost Blaze Path Understanding Brew was enough to crush this wine. As Bu Fong's cultivation base improved, so did the quality of the Frost Blaze Path Understanding Brew. Swish! Bu Fong poured a cup of wine and threw it to Ba Juetian. Ba Juetian's eyes narrowed. He caught the cup and gave Bu Fong a suspicious look. Then, he poured the wine into his mouth. Gulp! What the F***CK? This is awesome. Ba Juetian's eyes narrowed, and he looked at Bu Fong excitedly like a child. Buddy, this wine is delicious. Give me a jar. I, Ba Juetian, am convinced. Sure enough, all I drank before was horse piss. Ba Juetian was very excited. Oh, this wine is just SOSO. The main point is that it's a better wine. After drinking it, I can only let you drink this. I can only let you drink this, Bu Fong said. After saying that, Bu Fong picked up another dish with his chopsticks. As soon as it entered his mouth, he frowned. After a long time, he sighed. Then he slowly put down his chopsticks. I'm a little disappointed. I can't believe the dishes of the biggest restaurant in Nether Prison are only of this standard. Bu Fong said, his voice reverberating in the air. That stunned everyone. As a contestant of a Nether Chef clan, Lu Yang didn't say anything. His cooking skills were very good, but he could feel that the Nether Chef Lu Ban invited was even weaker than him. He was just a Chilean chef. It was understandable that he was criticized. However, Bu Fong's merciless evaluation still made the corner of Lu Yang's mouth twitch. He knew very well that the big boss of this restaurant was Lu Ban, and he had hired the chef from the Nether Chef clan at a high price. With Lu Ban's temper, he wouldn't be able to stand such an evaluation. Sure enough, as soon as Lu Yang finished speaking, Lu Ban angrily slammed his wine cup on the table and stared coldly at Bu Fong. I invited you to the banquet out of kindness, but how dare you slander the cooking skills of my restaurant's chef? Get out of here, Lu Ban said coldly. Bu Fong gave Lu Ban a sympathetic look. Oh, so you are the sucker of this restaurant. Get out of here. Lu Ban flew into a rage and slammed his hand on the table. You're expelled from this banquet. Oh, it's okay. Although the dishes taste bad, the cooking skills are barely at the level of a Chilean chef. It's just that I'm picky. After all, I like to tell the truth, Bufong said. Lu Ban's eyes were as cold as ice. What qualifications do you have to comment on my chef's cooking skills like that? If I'm not mistaken, you're just a third-grade Heaven Chief of the Heaven Chief realm, aren't you? You're not even a Qilin chef. I know all about you, Lu Ban said coldly. Lu Ban's words gave Bufong pause. He was being looked down upon. The corner of his mouth twitched slightly. Bufong didn't say anything. His mind flickered. The dragon bone kitchen knife appeared in his hand, and the golden knife light seemed to tear the sky apart. The white tiger heaven stove immediately appeared and was placed in front of him. Bufong fiddled with the kitchen knife, looked at Lu Ban in the distance, and twitched the corner of his mouth. In terms of cooking skills, I'm no longer a Heaven Chief. As soon as he said that, everyone present was dumbfounded. The next moment, they saw ingredients floating around Bufong. Was this chef from the Heaven Chief realm going to cook on the spot? Was he going to slap Lu Ban in the face? Chapter 1295. Cooking? That's right. Bufong was going to cook. Using a dish to slap people's faces was what Bufong was best at. Bufong's cooking skills had improved a lot. As his cultivation base improved, his cooking skills had also slowly improved, and he had reached the level of a Qilin chef. However, he wasn't in the Heaven Chief realm, so he didn't take the test. If he took the test now, his cooking skills would probably shock many people. After all, the speed at which Bufong's cooking skills improved was actually comparable to the speed at which his cultivation base improved. This was shocking and terrifying. Lu Ban's eyes were cold. Right now, his impression of Bufong was really bad. If he wasn't afraid of the sword pot in Bufong's hand, he would have immediately killed this presumptuous chef. He would have killed this presumptuous chef on the spot. He had spent a lot of money to recruit a top Qilin chef from the Nether Chef clan, and he had spent countless resources. In the end, the dishes he cooked were belittled by this little chef in front of him. This made him very angry. Moreover, in front of so many people, he severely belittled the dishes of the chef he had spent so much effort to recruit. This was tantamount to slapping him in the face. How could he stand it? Of course, he couldn't stand it. Boom! A stove was smashed hard on the ground. Bufong's indifferent eyes scanned the crowd. Was this chef from the Heaven Chief realm going to cook? Don't you want the qualification? Now, I'll let you know my qualification. The corners of Bufong's mouth twitched as he said indifferently. A moment later, he slammed his palm on the stove. Immediately, portions of ingredients were tossed into the air. Every single ingredient seemed to be flickering with light under the light. It was exceptionally dazzling and eye-catching. The dragon bone kitchen knife was held in Bufong's hand. The kitchen knife spun for a while. Then, as if it had turned into a stream of light, it shot out and abruptly cut through the ingredients. Like a meteor falling from the sky, it fell. One by one, blue and white porcelain plates flew out and were placed on the stove. The cut ingredients steadily fell from the sky, landing on the blue and white porcelain plate. The water droplets on some of the ingredients were even trembling. This knife technique, he had to admit that it was indeed pleasing to the eye. As a genius of the Nether Chef clan, Lu Yong narrowed his eyes and stared at Bufong. He could feel a sense of confidence from Bufong. It was the aura of confidence that came from the heart of Cooking Path. This confidence was really different from the others. This chef from the Heaven Chief realm seemed to have a very powerful heart of Cooking Path, which made his heart beat faster. Behind Bufong, the eyes of Zhu Yin and the others became fanatical again. Each and every one of Bufong's moves made them feel extremely delighted. Originally, the Nether Prison Genius's disdain for them at the banquet had angered them, but because of Bufong's attack, their hearts were burning with anger. Their helplessness was swept away, and they actually felt a little excited. Fa Wu and the others also put their palms together and stared at Bufong, their eyes full of surprise. Bufong's behavior was really beyond their expectation. In the face of the top and powerful Nether Prison Geniuses, he was neither servile nor overbearing. Rumble! A flame surged. As soon as the white flame appeared, the temperature of the whole floor rose abruptly. It was an immortal fire. Many people's eyes narrowed. It should be an immortal fire that ranked high on the immortal fire list. How could a chef control an immortal fire to cook? Bu Fong's movements were methodical, and his movements were relaxed and relaxed. He ignored the gazes of the people around him. He just wanted to show off his skills this time, and he could consider it an advertisement for the restaurant he would open in Nether Prison in the future. A light flashed in his hand. The next moment, a porcelain jar emerged. He put the ingredients into the jar and piled them up in a mysterious way. The grade of these ingredients was not bad. However, Liu Yang's eyes narrowed slightly. He found that it was difficult to control so many different ingredients when they were put together. This chef is too bold. When Bu Fong took out a lid, on which was a Buddha lying on its side, Fa Wu and the others froze. Fa Wu and the others were stunned, and their eyes narrowed. What kind of Buddha is this? The group of monks from the West Little Buddhism realm was dumbfounded. A Buddha lid was lying on its side on the porcelain jar. It looked a little strange. The Buddha was lying on its side with a big smile on its face. Its round belly seemed to be reflecting light. Bu Fong carefully carried the dish and placed it in the black turtle constellation walk. The spring of life surrounded the porcelain jar and began to simmer. At the same time, Bu Fong released wisps of his divine will and wrapped the porcelain jar. Bu Fong's series of actions dazzled many people on the scene. Cooking was also a broad and profound skill. Many people were disdainful of cooking, but when they saw Bu Fong's cooking, they couldn't help but take a deep breath. A figure in a chef's robe slowly walked down the spiral stairs. Liu Ban glanced at the man, his eyes cold. "Chef Liu, you're here. This man is challenging your cooking. Tell him that you're a top Qilin chef of the Nether Chef clan. He's not to be trifled with," Liu Ban said. It was a middle-aged man with a rather round body. His eyes were cloudy, and when he heard Liu Ban's words, his eyes went wide. His gaze was fixed on Bu Fong. "How dare a little boy deny my dishes? The dishes I cook are more than the rice he has eaten," the middle-aged man said coldly. His face was extremely gloomy. Liu Yang clasped his hands behind his back and narrowed his eyes at the so-called Chef Liu. This man looked familiar. He seemed to be a Qilin chef of the Nether Chef clan, but he couldn't remember who he was. Could it be that he, Liu Yang, had missed a top chef of the Nether Chef clan? Gurgle. The boiling spring of life soon began to boil. Wisps of aura wrapped around the porcelain jar. After waiting for a long time, there seemed to be a burst of light. Jueyin narrowed his eyes, holding a wine cup and drinking. The fine wine made him feel as though his mind was clear and bright. The dish is about to be ready. Liu Yang's eyes narrowed. Sure enough, a lightning punishment rang out in the sky. It was a lightning punishment that belonged to a dish. Soon, the lightning punishment fell from the sky. However, Bu Fong was unscathed as he resisted the lightning punishment with his fleshly body. The next lightning punishment was easily blocked by Bu Fong. Liang took a deep breath. His eyes were filled with disbelief. 8 lightning punishments. This dish actually attracted 8 lightning punishments. This showed that the quality of the dish was absolutely superb. The expression of the chef, who was called Chef Liu by Liu Ban, also changed. A chef who can attract 8 lightning punishments. This was the first time he met such a chef. This time, it's actually a chef of this level who came to challenge me. The chef suddenly felt a little uneasy, and he was about to turn and leave. However, he was stunned by a sharp look from Liu Ban. He put on a bitter face. Rumble. The lightning punishment was over. Bursts of rich aroma spread out, permeating the entire floor. Liu Ban's nose twitched. As he sniffed the aroma, his face suddenly froze. The aroma was very special, as if it had a magic power that could stir one's mind. Bu Fong's divine will moved. He took the porcelain jar out of the black turtle constellation walk. The Buddha lying on his side on the jar was already shining with golden light, as if a real Buddha had descended. His smiling face was constantly blooming with radiance. The monks of the West Little Buddhism realm were already shocked beyond words. This dish actually gave them the urge to sink into it. This dish is called Buddha Jumps Over the Wall. It's a heaven-grade dish. It's a heaven-grade dish, Bufong said lightly. He wiped off the water on his hands, then gently lifted the lid. Buzz, it was as if there was a unique meaning drifting out from the jar. It was an intoxicating aroma, an enchanting aroma. It was like a breeze caressing one's face. The aroma seeped into everyone's nostrils like silk, intoxicating them and making them unable to extricate themselves. Gulp. Without saying a word, they all swallowed their saliva. Even Liu Ban, who had a gloomy expression on his face, felt his Adam's apple roll. This is Buddha jumps over the wall. It's somewhat similar to the stew that was served just now. Where's that chef? You can come and have a taste. Bufong clasped his hands behind his back and said indifferently. His tone was confident. He put away the white tiger heaven stove. Bufong raised his eyes and looked straight at Chef Liu, who was standing next to Liu Ban in the distance. The chef's face had already changed. Under Bufong's gaze, he actually had an impulse to turn around and run away. Liu Ban furrowed his brows. Chef Liu, what's wrong? Liu Ban's voice was a little unfriendly. Under Liu Ban's gaze, Chef Liu instantly felt bitter. Of course, he couldn't turn around and run away. He walked not far from Bufong. The Buddha jumps over the wall soup was placed on the table. Beams of light shot out from it, which was extremely dazzling, shooting into the sky. It was dazzling and eye-catching. Swish. The soup of the Buddha jumps over the wall soup was golden. He scooped out a piece of spirit beast meat. The spirit beast meat was incomparably crystal clear, and there seemed to be a warm energy surging over it. Chef Liu scooped up this piece of meat and put it in his mouth. As soon as it entered his mouth, he chewed, and there seemed to be light bursting out from his mouth. That feeling, Chef Liu suddenly had the urge to kneel. Although he was a Chilean chef, he had just reached that level. His heart of cooking path couldn't be compared to Bufong's. The Buddha jumps over the wall soup made him feel despair. He took several steps back. Chef Liu's eyes were filled with shock. This. Chef Liu opened his mouth, but he didn't know what to say. In the distance, Liu Ban's face was completely gloomy. Liu Yu and the others were also extremely embarrassed. There was no doubt that the expression on the chef's face had told them that Bufong's dish had crushed everything else. Liu Ban felt a burning pain on his face. It was the feeling of being slapped in the face. He had just said that Bufong was not qualified, but what happened in the end? In the blink of an eye, Bufong's dish had rendered the chef he had spent so much effort to hire speechless. It was a very bad feeling. Liu Ban's eyes narrowed. In the next moment, the puppet on his back fell to the ground. Buzz Liu Ban's eyes became cold. Chef Liu, didn't you say that you are a top Chilean chef, and your cooking skills are the best except for the divine chefs of the Nether Chef clan? Have you been lying to me all this time? Liu Ban said coldly. Chef Liu's pupils constricted. Then, without hesitation, an aura burst out of his body. He rushed out of the restaurant. Chef Liu, you're fired. Liu Ban said coldly. The next moment, his eyes narrowed. A beam of black light burst out of the puppet's body. In the blink of an eye, it shot into the distance. It turned out to be an arrow. In just a flash, a miserable howl rang out from the distance. The moment the arrow pierced through the fake chef's body, it exploded with a boom. Liu Ban brought the puppet to Bufong's side. He grabbed a spoon, scooped up a piece of meat, put it in his mouth, and took a sip of the soup. His eyes flickered for a while, then he breathed a sigh of relief. Delicious, Liu Ban said. Liu Yu and the others, who followed behind Liu Ban, were dumbfounded. Come to my restaurant and be a chef. 5,000 nether crystals a month, Liu Ban said. Everyone was in an uproar. Liu Ban was trying to recruit Bufong. Weren't they at loggerheads just now? The three monarchs were really generous. I'm not interested. However, Liu Ban's offer was mercilessly rejected by Bufong. Bufong was a man who wanted to open his own restaurant. How could he be someone else's chef? It was not in line with Bufong's style of doing things. However, Bufong looked at Liu Ban seriously. Are you really not going to think about it? I can buy your puppet. I'm not short of money, Bufong said. However, Liu Ban did not respond to Bufong's words. His eyes just grew colder and colder. There seemed to be killing intent surging in them. The wine party ended in discord. Liu Ban left, and so did the nether prison geniuses. Bah, Zhuetian swaggered away with a jar of wine in his hand. Before he left, he gave Bufang a meaningful look. Bufang glanced around, then sat down. After finishing the Buddha jumps over the wall soup, he left the restaurant with Zhu Yin and the others. 10 miles teleportation booth. There was a flash of light. A figure shrouded in black mist slowly emerged. Its dark golden eyes were filled with brutal, killing intent. They had finally arrived at Nether Prison. Next, it was time to find the little chef who controlled the senseless lotus. A hoarse voice rang out, accompanied by a cold sneer. The next day, Sacred Puppet City, in the Nether Puppet Coliseum, the finals of the Netherworld's tournament of the Great Path would begin here. Chapter 1296. The next day, a beam of light tore through the sky. It fell on the floor of the inn's room. Bufang breathed a soft sigh of relief and walked out of the inn. Zhu Yin and the others were already waiting for him in the inn's hall. Today was the day of the competition, so they didn't cultivate in their rooms. Instead, they waited for Bufang in the hall. Bufang's behavior yesterday was so satisfying that they were still excited when they returned to the inn. They didn't expect that a heaven chief could be so prestigious. Even the geniuses of Nether Prison could be slapped in the face. Bufang twitched the corner of his mouth slightly as he looked at Zhu Yin and the others, whose excitement had not yet faded. Adjust your mentality. Today is the team competition, which is different from the previous ones. It may not be as easy as before. I have a feeling that Nether Prison is coming at us fiercely. Bufang said. Zhu Yin and the others didn't care too much about it. It was already a great surprise for them to be able to make it to the final of the team competition. What else could they hope for? Even if they lost, they wouldn't care. However, they still took Bufang's words seriously. After all, they couldn't waste such a good opportunity. The group of people left the inn. They headed for the Nether Puppeteer Arena in Sacred Puppet City. The Nether Puppeteer Arena was a landmark of Sacred Puppet City. It was a huge square. It was surrounded by terrace seats that could accommodate hundreds of thousands of spectators. Every year, Sacred Puppet City held a Nether Puppeteer Arena, and this square was the main venue of the competition. The Nether Puppeteer Arena was a unique event of the Nether Puppeteer clan. It was very popular in Sacred Puppet City. When Bufang and the others arrived at the arena, someone was already leading them at the entrance. They followed the guide and stepped into the arena. It was really spacious and huge. The seats in all directions were full of spectators. When they saw Bufang and the others, they all cheered excitedly. In the sky, a huge light screen was projected downwards, and the light screen was reflecting the scene in the arena. Every contestant in the arena was projected onto the screen. This image would also be transmitted to the surrounding small worlds through the projection formation. This was a match that many small worlds were watching at the same time. This was the finals of the Netherworld's tournament of the Great Path, whether it was the team competition or the individual competition. Heaven Chief Realm. Everyone was waiting in front of the light screen, which was specially set up for them by the Nether Prison experts. The projection array in Nether Prison was many years ahead of that in the Heaven Chief Realm. Everyone from the Heaven Chief Realm was extremely excited. They stared at the light screen, finally seeing the scene that they were looking forward to. Today was the finals of the team competition. The 3 small worlds in the semifinals and the 2 teams from Nether Prison would compete for the first place. The competition seemed intense, but in the eyes of many people, there was no suspense at all. After all, Nether Prison was simply too strong. Boom! When Bufang and the others arrived at the arena, they were shocked. A terrible aura filled the air. In the sky above the square, an expert was sitting cross-legged, emanating a terrible aura. The aura was extremely terrifying, and it seemed to support a small world. There was no doubt that this was a great sage. It turned out that a great sage was guarding this arena for this competition. Clearly, Nether Prison attached great importance to this competition. In the lounge, Bufang and the others were sitting quietly in the lounge, which was specially designed for the contestants to adjust their condition and wait for the next match. There was also a small projection array set up on the wall of the lounge so that the participants in the lounge could clearly see the scene in the arena. At this moment, Bu Fong and the others were watching the scene in the arena through the projection array. In the arena, there were already 2 teams that had entered the arena. The rules of the team competition were simple. There weren't any flashy group battles in the arena. There were only one-wave battles. All the contestants from both teams would enter the arena and fight in the arena. The team that lost all the contestants would win. The first match was between the 2 teams. It was a battle between Earth Prison's team and Nether Prison's second-tier experts. Bu Fong and the others had seen the second-tier experts. They had selected 5 people to form a team, and their auras were very strong. The referee was a 9-revolution little saint from the Nether Puppeteer clan. An expert of this level was basically enough to deal with any unexpected situation in the arena. The battle began. The first thing that rang out was the thunderous cheers of the spectators around the arena. Their cheers shook the heavens, causing the experts of hell to tremble in fear. They all became a little timid. This was Nether Prison's home advantage. The Nether Prison audience was very enthusiastic, but this enthusiasm was only for the Nether Prison experts. Defeat the Earth Prison's trash. Nether Prison is invincible. The other small worlds are all trash. Let them feel despair. Crush them. We are the overlords. The audience's cheers almost tore the sky apart. They kept stabbing into the Earth Prison contestants' minds like spears, making them tremble. In the lounge, the team from the West Little Buddhism realm was silent. Perhaps, if they were to face such a scene, they would also be at a complete disadvantage. Psychologically speaking, they were at a disadvantage. The home advantage was not a joke. Although Sacred Puppet City was only a big city in Nether Prison, it was, after all, Nether Prison's territory. Zhu Yin and the others were already stunned. They suddenly felt a little timid, and they didn't even have the courage to step into the arena. It was too terrible. In the midst of the tsunami-like cheers of the enemies, they couldn't gather their fighting spirit at all. This kind of battle, they were going to be crushed. Their overall strength was not as good as Nether Prison's, and now, even their momentum was suppressed. How could they compete? Bu Fong, on the other hand, was very calm. He watched the match and didn't say anything. The match began. The contestants of Nether Prison's second-tier team were all those who had stepped into Earth Prison. Although their overall strength seemed a little weaker without Zhang Xian, they still had a great advantage against Earth Prison. The contestants of Earth Prison this time were mediocre, and they didn't have any outstanding experts. Therefore, the Nether Prison contestants had an easy choice. The team composed of Fire Demon, Liu Yang, and other experts was almost flawless. Earth Prison, in a few big cities, the images were transmitted back through projection arrays. The experts of Earth Prison stared at the screen of the competition in silence. In the images, they seemed to see a little lamb facing thousands of ferocious tigers. Both Jin Jiao and Yin Jiao sighed. Boom! The sound of a bell rang out. The battle finally broke out. The whole arena was huge. The ground was uneven, and it was made of a kind of solid stone. Although it was uneven, it was hard enough to withstand attacks. The Infernal Realm's experts spread out in formation and began to charge. After all, a 5-man team battle was different from an individual battle. A team battle was about teamwork. Standing in the middle was an Earth Prison genius, whose cultivation base was at the peak of the First Revolution Little Saint. This kind of cultivation base, it was not worth mentioning. After learning the cultivation base of the leader, the Nether Prison audience couldn't help but laugh mercilessly. The Earth Prison experts felt extremely aggrieved. Boom! In the Nether Prison camp, facing the charging Earth Prison team, the contestants were still talking and laughing, looking very calm. Suddenly, one of them stomped on the ground, and his figure immediately turned into a fiery light as he dashed forward at high speed. Boom! The man's body seemed to be glowing, and lava was surging under his skin. With a rumble, his skin began to burn, and his whole body was enveloped in flames. He looked like a man of fire. He the cold laughter lingered in the arena. As soon as the expert of the Fire Demon clan appeared, the atmosphere rose, and the Nether Prison audience screamed excitedly. Boom! Two fire snakes stretched out of the Fire Demon's arms. Then, he threw them out. They shot toward the leader of the Earth Prison team. Flames swept out and turned into a giant multicolored snake, which opened its mouth and spewed out flames. Boom! The aura of the Earth Prison experts burst out, and their energy collided with the flame snakes. Sparks flew in all directions. A great battle was about to break out. The Fire Demon stood in the middle. Screams rang out incessantly. He threw out his arms, which turned into two roaring fire snakes. He actually single-handedly withstood the attack of 5 people from hell. This scene directly brought the venue to a climax. Laughter, screams, and scorn filled the air. The faces of the Earth Prison experts were flushed. They attacked with all their strength, but they could only block the Fire Demon's attack. For a moment, the battle entered a white-hot stage. Meanwhile, in the Nether Prison camp, several experts chatted and laughed as they pointed at the experts from hell. Then, another figure dashed out at high speed. His body turned into 10,000 afterimages. Streaks of afterimages were like pitch-black shadows. This was the attack of the Shadow Demon clan. Another expert made a move. The Nether Prison audience cheered loudly again. With the addition of the Shadow Demon clan, the Earth Prison camp collapsed like a long dam. Flames swept across the area. One of the Earth Prison experts was instantly hit by the Fire Demon's flame snakes, and his body was stirred up by them. Hee hee, Earth Prison is really trash. Boom! The Fire Demon grinned and said coldly. The flames and the flame snakes surged, and the expert was instantly engulfed by the flames and completely turned into coke. Slash! Fresh blood splattered across the sky and splashed everywhere. A head flew up into the sky. Another Earth Prison expert was beheaded. The Shadow Demon appeared, his eyes cold. The Earth Prison leader's eyes widened. He roared, his whole body enveloped in anger. You've gone too far. The Earth Prison leader took a step and sped up to the Shadow Demon. He threw out more than a dozen attacks in a row, but none of them touched the Shadow Demon's clothes. A loud rumble rang out. The flame snakes came and whipped the leader, sending him flying backward. The surrounding audience, seeing this bloody scene, seemed to be stimulated by the blood in their bodies to boil. All of them widened their eyes in excitement. Their faces were twisted with strange excitement. We surrender. With one of his legs crippled, Captain Hell chose to surrender with his eyes wide open. However, the Fire Demon simply ignored his words. He let out a jija laughter. The flame snakes fell in an instant, directly swallowing the Earth Prison leader, Slaughter. Slaughter is where the joy of this tournament lies. We asked you to step into the Nether Prison finals. Isn't that Slaughter? Ha ha! Are you desperate? Boom! There was only a surge of flames on the ground. The experts of the Nether Prison's second echelon team stood together. The Fire Demon's face was full of excitement, and the remaining brutality hadn't disappeared. Earth Prison, they saw the tragic scene on the light screen. The eyes of the Earth Prison experts turned bloodshot. This was a humiliating slaughter. No one had thought that the Nether Prison people could be so cruel. They treated the Earth Prison as a joke. Damn it. Some Earth Prison experts' eyes were red, roaring in anger. However, they could only feel a wave of helplessness. The eyes of Jin Jiao, Yin Jiao, and the other Earth Prison overlords were cold. They clenched their fists and gritted their teeth. Nether Prison had indeed gone too far. The first match was over. The Earth Prison team was completely wiped out. The result made the Nether Prison audience very excited. Naturally, there were many bets in the arena. Nether Prison's victory made those who bet very excited. Although the odds were not high because there was no suspense, Nether Prison had won after all. As long as they won, they would be happy. The second match would be between the West Little Buddhism realm and the Nether Prison's first echelon team. As a champion of the semifinals, the Heaven Chief realm would fight in the third match. The team that won the match against the Nether Prison's second echelon team could compete with the Nether Prison's first echelon team for the championship. The rules were simple. In many people's eyes, there was no suspense at all. This spectacular Netherworld's tournament of the Great Path would eventually turn into a civil war between the Nether Prison teams. The battle between the Nether Prison's first echelon team and the Nether Prison's second echelon team. The first match was over. All that was left were the charred bodies of the Earth Prison contestants on the ground. The Fire Demon was very excited. He turned his head, stared at the projection array, raised his hands, and gave a contemptuous middle finger. Then he grinned. The end of Earth Prison will be the end of the Heaven Chief realm. Look forward to it. He. The lava under his skin seemed to glow brightly. His move made the audience cheer even louder. In the lounge, Zhu Yin and the others were silent. They felt a great pressure weighing down on their hearts. They were humiliated, angry, but more than that, powerless. The Earth Prison team was completely wiped out. At this moment, the Nether Prison experts finally showed their fangs. Is this going to be our end? Zhu Yin's eyes were dull. The finals seemed to be a path of no return. It was Nether Prison's path of slaughter. Calm down. That charcoal ball is just a clown. Calm down. Suddenly, Bufang's faint voice rang out. All of them felt a wave of relief. Zhu Yin and the others turned to look at Bufang, only to find that the corner of Bufang's mouth twitched, and he seemed to be staring with interest at the rampant fire demon on the light screen. The look in Owner Boo's eyes startled them. It was the look of someone who wanted to stir up trouble. The venue was cleaned up. The second match began. The contestants from the West Little Buddhism realm slowly stepped onto the stage and put their palms together. They wore kasayas, and their faces were serious and grave. Rumble. All of a sudden, the ground shook. The sound of the audience was silenced. Everyone's gazes landed on the other intersection. Over there, it was Nether Prison's top team of geniuses. The three kings did not participate. The team led by Lu Yu and Zhang Wudi from the Sword Demon clan. As soon as this team appeared, the audience, which had been silent for a long time, burst into an uproar like an erupting volcano. Chapter 1297. For the West Little Buddhism realm, the annihilation of Earth Prison's first battle was a great blow to their hearts. The merciless slaughter of Nether Prison experts put endless pressure on them. Compared with Earth Prison, the enemies they had to face were much stronger. Earth Prison only encountered the second echelon, while the West Little Buddhism realm had to face the first echelon. An uproar suddenly broke out. Fa Wu, who had fallen into a trance, suddenly woke up from his trance. They raised their heads and looked into the distance. There, 5 figures slowly walked out. A terrible pressure seemed to have turned into a dark cloud sweeping across from a distance, oppressing everyone's hearts. It brought great pressure to everyone. Lu Yu, Zhang Qiubai. These experts were the top experts of the first echelon. Although the 3 emperors hadn't made a move yet, just Lu Yu and the others were enough to make Fa Wu despair. The cheers around them were all for Lu Yu and the others. Their voices rang in everyone's ears like the morning bell, making Fa Wu's body tremble. Lu Yu and the others walked over like a pack of ferocious beasts. It was as if the ground was trembling. Fa Wu took a deep breath, then exhaled. He glanced at the junior brothers beside him and nodded. Clad in red kasayas, the 5 monks sat cross-legged where they were. What are these monks going to do? The surrounding audience fell into deep thought as they looked at the few monks sitting cross-legged in confusion. Lu Yu, Zhang Qiubai, and the others looked indifferently at the 5 monks. They were not in a hurry to attack. As the experts of the first echelon, they had their pride. So what if they let these monks set up a trap? Buzz Fa Wu and the others sat cross-legged and looked calmly at Lu Yu and the others in the distance. The next moment, they clasped their palms together and closed their eyes. Their bodies emitted a faint golden light, which swirled and illuminated heaven and earth. Their mouths were chanting, and the sound of their chanting was deafening. Amitabha, Amitabha. The nether prison audience held their breaths with great interest. Rumble, shock waves suddenly burst out and spread in all directions. The Buddhist light was dazzling as it soared into the horizon. Very quickly, a blurry golden silhouette swiftly condensed above their heads. It was a Buddha, a golden Buddha. They both sat cross-legged, their palms pressed together, but their eyes were merciful, and their auras suppressed the heavens. Interesting. Zhang Qiubai slowly stepped forward. His eyes narrowed as he looked at the Buddhas formed above the heads of the 5 monks. A radiant smile gradually bloomed on his face. The West Little Buddhism realm's Buddhist array? I like to see it for myself today. As Zhang Qiubai spoke, his aura also gradually rose. Boom! The golden Buddha gradually grew bigger and bigger until it finally turned into a giant golden Buddha that seemed to cover the sky. Fa Wu, who was sitting cross-legged, suddenly opened his eyes. The golden light in his eyes shone brilliantly. Benefactor, please enlighten me, Fa Wu said in a detached tone. Very good. Zhang Qiubai curled his lips. In the next moment, his eyes suddenly revealed a wisp of sword intent. Buzz, the bronze sword on his back instantly shot out, tearing through the sky, and the sound of the sword rang out incessantly. The long sword flew out, and Zhang Qiubai also stepped on the long sword and soared into the sky, hovering in midair. Then, a terrible sword intent rapidly condensed in the sky. Rumble. The sword intent soared into the sky, condensing into the shadow of a giant sword that blotted out the sky. I want to see which is stronger, the Buddhist kingdom in a palm condensed by your Buddhist array, or the sword intent of my sword demon clan. Zhang Qiubai sneered. His voice rang out. The giant sword slashed down with a rumble. As the sword intent surged, Fa Wu chanted the name of Buddha. Then, he reached out a palm. The giant golden Buddha also moved. It raised its giant arm and swatted at Zhang Qiubai, who was hovering in the void. The palm kept growing larger, and there seemed to be a golden Buddhist kingdom emerging in it. Boom! A sudden explosion occurred. The sword intent and the Buddha's palm collided. A terrible noise spread in all directions. An uproar broke out. The audience raised their heads and looked at this scene. They were all extremely shocked. It was indeed a cool battle. The Buddhist kingdom in a palm was the top fighting technique of the West Little Buddhism realm. However, Fa Wu and the others had only managed to cast this move after they had set up a Buddhist formation. If it were used by a great sage of the West Little Buddhism realm, the whole sacred puppet city would be enveloped in a Buddhist kingdom. It would be assimilated by the Buddhist kingdom and eventually be annihilated in the dust of history. Awesome. Awesome. Unfortunately, you're too weak, bald donkey. Zhang Qiubai laughed in midair, his eyes bright. The next moment, his aura soared again. Then, he slashed down with his sword. Swish! Everyone heard the sound of something shattering. Under the sword, the houses in the Buddhist kingdom in a palm kept crumbling. The houses in the Buddhist kingdom in the palm were collapsing. In the next moment, the entire Buddha became illusory and collapsed. Fa Wu's eyes widened, his body trembled, and he coughed up a mouthful of blood. All 5 monks coughed up blood at the same time, their auras weakened, and they were knocked flying backward. Fa Wu, on the other hand, rolled on the ground. We've lost. Fa Wu got to his feet, looking a little embarrassed. He sighed softly. The other side alone had defeated all 5 of them. He was indeed worthy of being the top expert of Nether Prison. In the sky, Zhang Qiubai stood on a sword with his hands clasped behind his back. Sword intent surged around him, and a dazzling light seemed to bloom. The West Little Buddhism realm admits defeat. Fa Wu wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, put his palms together, and bowed his head. As soon as he said that, Buzz, the 9 Revolution little saint, who was in charge of maintaining order, arrived in a flash and appeared in front of Fa Wu. He wanted to prevent the others from continuing to attack. However, Zhang Qiubai was too lazy to attack. His figure flickered, and he returned to the team. The top expert of Nether Prison had defeated the West Little Buddhism realm alone. The teams on both sides had dispersed. Fa Wu was wise. Perhaps he was frightened by the semi-final in Earth Prison. After all, the West Little Buddhism realm had lost 3 experts at that time. He didn't want the West Little Buddhism realm's experts to die in vain in this match. So, he used a powerful trick as soon as the match began. He wanted to fight with one blow to decide the outcome. It turned out that he was right. Before the 3 emperors appeared, the West Little Buddhism realm was no match for them. There was no need to continue the match. Bufang's eyes narrowed as he watched Fa Wu leave. Then he rose to his feet. Behind him, Zhu Yin and the others held their breaths. "It's our turn," Bufang said lightly. Zhu Yin and the others were excited. This time, Bufang would not put them into that magical world, so they had to face the terrifying experts of Nether Prison. Of course, he also knew that the gap between their strength and that of those experts was like the gap between heaven and earth. However, they still had some confidence because they had Owner Bu. They had the Great Demon in the Heaven Chief realm. Behind the light screen, the crowd was in an uproar. When everyone saw the team from the Heaven Chief realm enter the arena, they cheered excitedly. Of course, most people were cheering for the Great Demon. After all, the only one who could create miracles was the Great Demon. As for Zhu Yin and the others, even the head of the Zhu family was not optimistic about them. The gap between their strength was too great. However, some people were depressed and silent. They could still remember what happened to the Earth Prison team. What if the team from the Heaven Chief realm also ended up like the Earth Prison team? In Nether Prison, in the Nether Puppet Arena, clad in a striped red and white vermilion robe, Bufang stood at one end of the arena with his hands clasped behind his back. The arena floor was hard. Because it was empty, the wind was strong. As the wind blew, the hem of Bufang's clothes fluttered. In the distance, the experts of the second echelon slowly walked out of the entrance. The eyes of the fire demon, Liu Yang, and the others were full of fighting spirit. The fire demon felt that he represented the honor of the Nether Prison, so after he walked out of the entrance, he spread his arms and nodded to the audience. The audience also cheered for Fire Demon generously. This made the fire demon's vanity explode. A cold smile came to the corner of his mouth, and his killing intent toward Bufang and the others grew stronger. He planned to use the same cruel killing method to wipe out all the trash from the Heaven Chief realm, like he did to the Earth Prison team. In the audience, a figure wrapped in black mist stood in the arena. When the mist dissipated, a black bandage was revealed. The bandage wrapped around the man's body, making him look a little strange. The figure wrapped in bandages stared at Bufang, who was in the arena, found the owner of the senseless lotus. The 2 teams faced each other in the distance. Liu Yang's eyes were a little serious. The team from the Heaven Chief realm was different from the team from Earth Prison. The Heaven Chief realm had a magical chef. Although the others were nothing to worry about, he had to pay attention to the chef who dared to slap Liu Ban in the face. The fire demon felt that he was making a mountain out of a molehill. After all, in their eyes, Bufang was just a First Revolution little saint. He had killed Zhang Xian in Earth Prison in a sinister way. Therefore, they were very confident. After all, they didn't take a First Revolution little saint seriously. Liu Yang, if you're really afraid of death, stay aside and watch how we kill these ants, the fire demon said, grinning. The fire demon grinned, his words extremely arrogant. Perhaps the cheers of the audience had made him a little arrogant. Bufang cast his eyes over the distance, feeling a little pity. There's no Nether Puppeteer clan here. What a pity. I can't collect the sacred Nether Puppeteer heart. Bufang sighed softly. Stay where you are. Don't run around. Bufang turned his head, glanced at Zhu Yin and the others, and gave them an order. In this battle, they did not play any role. They only needed to shout orders. Rumble. In the distance, the fire demon could not wait to charge forward. Then, the fire demon burst into flames and turned into a flaming man, rushing toward Bufang at full speed. The fire demon was very arrogant. Bufang narrowed his eyes and looked at him with interest. He heard that the flame-born of the fire demon clan had a strange ability to enhance the power of the immortal flame and the nether flame. Therefore, the Fire Demon clan and the Nether Chef clan had always been at odds with each other. Bufong was very interested in the flame in the Fire Demon's body, except for the Fire Demon. The second-tier contestants also included the experts of the Shadow Demon clan, the Horn Demon clan, and the Beastmaster clan. There were a total of 5 contestants. The overall strength of the team was very strong. However, Bufong was eager to give it a try. He took a step forward. In the distance, the Fire Demon screamed and approached at full speed like a cannonball. Rumble! Monstrous flames burst out of his arms, turned into fire snakes, and slapped down at Bufong's head. Feel despair. The Fire Demon roared, his eyes full of excitement. At the same time, the audience could not help but let out tsunami-like howls. Rumble! The sound waves pressed toward Bufong like tides. The terrible home ground advantage was suppressing Bufong. Bufong, on the other hand, still walked forward unhurriedly, step by step. Rumble! The Fire Demon approached at full speed. He approached Bufong like a blazing sun. His eyes were round, and flames were burning in them. Die! He opened his mouth, which was full of flames. His face, with waves of heat, was almost touching Bufong's body. He could burn everything. They were getting closer and closer. 1 step, 2 steps, buzz. The next moment, in the blink of an eye, Bufong's hair turned from black to white. His pupils turned into swords as well. An insufferably arrogant aura surged out of him. I heard from the host that there's a little charcoal that's very arrogant. White-haired Bufong grinned. He raised his fist. White flames surged over Bufong's fist. Rumble! It smashed into the Fire Demon's face. Chapter 1298. The punch landed hard on the Fire Demon's face. Perhaps even the Fire Demon himself did not expect that Bufong would throw a punch at him, who was shrouded in flames, instead of dodging. The flames contained in the Fire Demon clan were very terrible. Although they were not as strong as the Immortal Fire or Nether Flame, they were extremely hot. Ordinary people couldn't bear it at all. Therefore, they would avoid him, who was shrouded in flames. But Bufong, Rumble, the Fire Demon was knocked flying away by the punch and smashed hard into the ground. He rolled and rolled, and the flames on his body seemed to dim a lot. His white hair fluttered in the wind, as if emitting a proud luster. His eyes were cold and arrogant as he glanced around, stunning the Nether Prison experts who were cheering. The cheering came to an abrupt end at this moment. Domineering and arrogant. When the Nether Prison audience saw the eye through the huge projection screen in the sky, they couldn't help but tremble. His white hair fluttered in the wind. He crossed his arms over his chest and raised his chin proudly. As Zhu Yin and the others looked at Bufong's back, their wandering eyes suddenly froze. This was Owner Bu, the great demon. He was always on the road to creating miracles. The Fire Demon was knocked flying away by a punch. This made the experts of the Nether Prison camp a little frightened. This guy seems to have some tricks up his sleeves. The Shadow Demon expert took a deep breath. Arrogant brat. Just tear him to shreds. The Horned Beast tribe powerhouse bellowed insolently. Liu Yang watched from a distance. He always felt that Bufong was not ordinary. He felt that Bufong was covered with a veil, and he couldn't see him clearly. The Fire Demon got up from the ground. The flames all over him became lush again. How dare you hit me? His eyes turned red, and the flames all over him soared again. He opened his mouth and roared. White-haired Bufong crossed his arms over his chest, raised his chin, and looked disdainfully at the Fire Demon. It's just a small piece of charcoal. The host said that your charcoal is very inflated and needs to cool down. The white-haired Bufong said. Arrogant. The Fire Demon was furious. His hands suddenly twitched and turned into fiery palms. He formed a seal with his hands, and the flame energy in the world suddenly became restless. The Fire Demons had the means to manipulate the fire energy between heaven and earth. Boom! White-haired Bufong was indifferent. Around his body, flames appeared and spun rapidly. In the end, they turned into a huge fire dragon and engulfed him within. Within the fire dragon, the temperature continued to rise. The sudden increase in temperature caused the air to distort. The stones on the ground began to slowly melt and disperse under the high temperature. This is the most powerful fire-controlling technique of the fire demons. This kid has angered the fire demon. He's going to be burnt to a crisp. Although the fire demon clan ranks at the bottom of the 9 clans in Nether Prison, that's because of the limitation of their innate talent. Very few of them can reach the level of the Great Sage. At the very least, the combat ability of the fire demons is very strong among their peers. When the audience in the audience seats saw the fire dragon engulf Bufong and the scorching heat spread, they all cheered excitedly. They seemed to have seen the scene of a chef from the Heaven Chief realm being roasted to a crisp. The fire demon stood in the distance, raised his hands, and kept waving them to control the flame energy. Suddenly, his pupils constricted. It was a loud bang. The fire dragon's abdomen burst open. The next moment, white-haired Bufong's body shot out like a spring and landed in front of the fire demon. That made the fire demon's heart tremble. Boom! An arm suddenly stretched out. The arm was covered with a layer of white flame. It was the white tiger's heaven illuminating flame. In fact, it was no longer just the heaven illuminating flame. After all, it had fused with the immortal fire contained in Bufong. It was an immortal fire stronger than the heaven illuminating flame. Fire? The fire demon paused. He was grabbed by the neck and slowly lifted up. I can't believe you're going to use fire to deal with me. Are you retarded? The fire demon grinned, revealing an excited smile. He really didn't expect that Bufong would use the fire demon to deal with him. Didn't he know that the exports of the fire demon clan were least afraid of fire? Break! The fire demon opened his mouth and let out a shrill roar. The next moment, the flame on his body surged and grew stronger. A suction force burst out of the fire demon, as if to swallow the white flame in Bufong's hand. Huh! White-haired Bufong's eyes narrowed slightly. He didn't stop the fire demon and let it swallow the flame. After it was completely swallowed, the fire demon's eyes widened, full of horror. No, no, this flame. A sizzling sound rang out. Before the fire demon could finish speaking, he found that a flame was burning in his abdomen. It was a mass of white flame. It slowly spread from his abdomen and finally covered his whole body. With a miserable howl, the fire demon disappeared completely. All that was left was a mass of dark red flame. After it was swallowed by the white flame, the fire demon died completely. All of this happened in an instant. The fire demon's teammates didn't even have time to react. The insufferably arrogant fire demon was killed. The Nether Prison audience was stunned. The little saint killed the fire demon? And he even swallowed the fire demon's origin flame? White-haired Bufong retracted the white flame, crossed his arms over his chest, and grinned. Feeling that the flames had grown stronger, the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. He raised his head and glanced at the audience. Looking around at the tens of thousands of Nether Prison audience, he raised his chin proudly. None of you can fight, white-haired Bufong said. As soon as he said that, the entire arena was silent. These arrogant words were like thunder, exploding in the entire arena. Then, the audience boiled with anger. They were boiling with anger, and every Nether Prison expert wished they could tear him to pieces. How arrogant! This was Nether Prison's home ground, and only Nether Prison experts could be arrogant. When did a chef from the Heaven Chief realm become so arrogant? Anger burned. However, the battle continued. As soon as the fire demon died, his teammates naturally couldn't sit still. They thought that the fire demon alone was enough to kill the little saint. Now it seemed that they were too naive. The expert of a shadow demon clan appeared in a flash. He turned into a shadow and disappeared into the sky. When he reappeared, he was already at white-haired Bufong's side. Boom! The shadow suddenly exploded. Thousands of shadows densely covered Bufong's eyes. It was as if there were thousands of them, dazzling everyone. This was the skill of the Shadow Demon Clan. However, in the face of all this, white-haired Bufong was still very calm. His sword pupils constricted slightly. The next moment, he suddenly raised his palm. With a boom, it hit a figure. The Shadow Demon clan expert froze. He didn't expect that he would be slapped out of thousands of shadows with one palm. In the distance, the experts of the Horned Demon clan and the Beastmaster clan couldn't stand it anymore. They attacked at the same time. Although their opponent was alone, they couldn't help but feel a little uneasy. The expert of the Horned Demon clan had 3 horns on his head. They were silver gray and somewhat dazzling. He stomped his foot, and the terrible force made the ground tremble. Then, he jerked his head in Bufong's direction. The phantom of a silver horn rushed toward Bufong. The eyes of the Beastmaster clan expert were cold. He raised his hand. An array emerged. The array rotated, and 2 huge, savage beasts came out of it. A ferocious aura filled the arena. Liu Yang swallowed his saliva and looked at the white-haired Bufong. Suddenly, there was a hint of surprise in his eyes. Rumble. The Beastmaster clan ranked 4th among the 9 clans, second only to the Overlord body. The Beastmaster clan could tame tens of thousands of beasts. As soon as the 2 enormous savage beasts appeared, the atmosphere in the arena was ignited to the extreme. They were 2 incomparably huge wolf beasts as big as mountains. Roaring, they charged toward white-haired Bufong, trying to kill Bufong. All kinds of killing methods descended at the same time, as if they wanted to push Bufong to the extreme. I told you everyone here is trash. The corner of white-haired Bufong's mouth twitched, and he said arrogantly. He raised his chin proudly, and in the next moment, his hands suddenly tensed up. At this moment, the white tiger, who was in charge of killing, finally showed his terror. Boom! The neck of the Shadow Demon clan expert was crushed by white-haired Bufong. He spat out blood. His broken body was thrown into the distance by white-haired Bufong. A huge silver horn rushed over. White-haired Bufong stood proudly in the sky, his body bending at a shocking angle like a spring. Then he shot out. The energy of the silver horn's attack was smashed into pieces. White-haired Bufong's figure kept moving. In a short while, he appeared in front of the Horned Demon clan expert. The impact suddenly exploded. Hundreds of punches were thrown in a row. The silver horn of the Horned Demon clan expert was broken. A fist covered in white flames suddenly blasted out. The white flames turned into the appearance of a white tiger. A punch came down. The Horned Demon clan expert lay on the ground. The flames burned. Amid a howl, the Horned Demon clan expert turned into a huge rhinoceros. Unfortunately, the rhinoceros was already roasted. The fragrant smell of meat filled the air. The Nether Prison audience took another deep breath. They couldn't believe it. Was this chef from the Heaven Chief realm so strong? Roar! 2 wolf howls rang out. The 2 huge wolves raised their claws and slapped at white-haired Bufong. White-haired Bufong crossed his arms over his chest, his white hair fluttering in the wind. He seemed to hear a strong sound of something breaking through the air. Bufong raised his head, and his pupils constricted. He opened his mouth, revealing his canine teeth. Then, he roared at the 2 wolves. Whoa! The roar was deafening, carrying the might of a white tiger. This caused the ash wolf, whose claws were about to strike down, to suddenly stiffen. The next moment, a biguang shot out. Boom! Boom! The heads of the 2 wolves exploded in an instant. The Beastmaster expert's pupils constricted, and he coughed up a mouthful of blood. He never thought that their lineup was defeated in an instant. How could this chef from the Heaven Chief realm be so strong? He was just a one-revolution little saint. How could he be so strong? Zhu Yin and the others had already been stimulated by this battle, and their blood was boiling. When the great demon was a half-step little saint, he could already fight against a first-stage little saint and even kill a second-stage little saint. To the great demon, this kind of battle was child's play. Liu Yang watched as his teammate was defeated in an instant. He was also shocked. After the white-haired Bufong killed the expert from the beast-taming sect, the beast-taming sect disciples were all shocked. His eerie gaze suddenly turned around. It landed on his body. The pressure on his body suddenly increased. I I admit defeat, Liu Yang said without hesitation. All four of his teammates had died, and Liu Yang understood that he was not much stronger than his teammates. Perhaps his cooking skills were very good, but it was useless. So, if he didn't admit defeat, what else could he do? As soon as Liu Yang said that he admitted defeat, the 9 Revolutions' little saint had already descended from the sky. There was a rumbling sound. Smoke billowed and dispersed. A terrible pressure swept across the audience. Liu Yang's legs trembled, and he sat down on the ground. In front of him was a huge fist. There was a white flame burning on the fist. However, the fist was stopped by the referee, who was a 9 Revolution little saint. Fortunately, he admitted defeat quickly. Otherwise, his head might have been smashed by that punch. You've gone too far. The 9 Revolutions little saint looked at Bu Fong with cold eyes. White-haired Bu Fong glanced at him and grinned, revealing his canine teeth. I told you, there's really no one who can fight. The outcome of the battle was decided in an instant. Everyone thought it would be a one-sided battle, but the tables had turned. The Earth Prison team, which should have crushed the opponent, was crushed instead. The Nether Puppet Arena was so quiet that one could hear a pin drop. Tens of thousands of spectators were dumbfounded at this moment. Only white-haired Bu Fong's arrogant words echoed in the air. There's no one who can fight. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.